7 a.m. Friday, January 31st, Jocks 94.5. Getting you set for the 3 hours. We have a lot to get to. Maybe won't be as derailed from sports as we were yesterday, but I feel like the people enjoyed it. So we will try to have some more fun today. And the Senior Bowl will be a topic of conversation. Auburn will be a topic of conversation. Spent a lot of time on Alabama yesterday. Our game of the day today in our top 100 games of the season that was brought to you by Bill Conley will be Texas-Arizona State. So a college football playoff game that people probably remember a little bit more than some of the others that we've discussed just because of how long ago they were. We'll discuss that one in the 9 o'clock hour today. David Hale will be with us at 8. The ACC and ESPN have a new TV deal, yet revenue sharing within the conference, a big topic of conversation, as that will roll into private equity being a large topic of conversation today, as we've tried to kind of warn you, tried to kind of talk about it, tried to kind of let you know that this is most likely coming. We'll have some conversations on it today. Andy Staples with us at 7:30. He listed his coaches on the hot seat heading into the season. Hugh Freeze was one of those coaches, so that'll be a part of the conversation. He's also at the Senior Bowl, so we'll get thoughts on who he likes, who he doesn't like, maybe who has impressed so far at the Senior Bowl. Just a little bit of recruiting that we will discuss today because
what?
Just a smidge.
Recruiting?
We're not going to break people down or dive into it or tell you what the film says because we don't have access to that film, number one. And
how many stars?
Number two, don't even know. Well, that's part of the conversation.
2-star
right?
plus?
Actually, it's more about the grade that we'll talk about today than the stars because we've got a first. We love firsts on this show. We love history on this show. We love things that have never happened before.
Good type first?
Reverse. It's an all-time good grade, according to On3.
Whoa.
Michigan quarterback signee Bryce Underwood is the first ever.
No.
Ever.
Don't tell me you got second plus.
To receive a 100 rating from On3.
Whoa.
It took you 2.5 minutes to get to this.
I'm sorry, I had to at least tee up the other stuff.
No, we didn't. This is way more important.
There are certain people that might be interested in Hugh Freeze or private equity or Texas-Arizona State or Cam Newton conspiracy theories.
No,
this should have
led the show. Didn't even need the intro.
Hang on a second. So you're telling me that
Cam Newton has conspiracy theories? Yes, he does.
Oh,
he gives those later.
That's surprising.
Tell by the way he's dressed.
Not sure what that has to do with it, but yeah.
It's like Mike, these abs are the situation. Cam, this hat is the situation. Like he 100% has conspiracy theories. But you're telling me that a site that officially launched on August 15th of 2021, a post-COVID cocktail of recruiting
You did
three.
Catch the most important part of this.
Yes.
Is that On3 has only been with us for a couple
4 years.
Yeah, it is the first ever in the history of that entity.
Ever. Forever?
Ever. And then the most unfortunate part is Charles Power, who I'm sure does a great job, director of scouting and rankings for On3. Power. He makes the unfortunate. There's some things that in recruiting. Let's just say football, because football covers everything: high school football, recruiting, college football, the NFL draft, the Senior Bowl, practice, film, games, playoff, coaches, coaching moves, portal, all of it. There's just there, in my opinion, there's one thing you never do. If there was a comp that you never make, Greg, who would that be? Like I can think of probably like maybe 3 guys that I just say, you know what, we're like Penei Sewell from an offensive line perspective. Orlando Pace and Penei Sewell were the guys that I would say. I mean, I probably put Quentin Nelson in there, but there's a few guys that you could maybe start to, whatever. But like Penei Sewell, Orlando Pace, hey guys, let's not. It would be in all of our best interest if you just didn't do that. Like one of the bowl games that I had this year, I'm not going to say the who, the why, the where, the when, but the Penei Sewell name was dropped on one guy, and I was like, you know what? In our production meeting, I said,
you mean comparing a 17-year-old?
I said to Tom and Jordan, I said, we're not going to bring that one up.
No.
We're going to leave that one out. That's not going to be a real
When I think 18-year-olds, I think NFL Hall of Famers.
That catch touchdown
like
passes at the tackle position.
Yes, that are 330 and run like they're 235.
Yeah, we'll just leave that one alone. That doesn't have to be like we don't need to do that one. The other one, which Charles does make, in my opinion, the mistake of, And if you wanted to go Josh Allen with some guys,
yeah,
we could maybe say, sure, we'll do that. We'll see. Quote, the combination of size, arm talent, and athleticism is reminiscent. It's like, you got to reminisce on this. You got to think way back of players like Josh Allen and Cam Newton. Just that. And when I say this, I'm not saying the quarterbacking part of it.
Yes.
But just the size, the speed, the ability, that's not one that we have to make.
Don't have to.
We could just stay away from that one, I feel like.
That's a tough one.
You could go Blake Bell.
There you go.
You could go Alex Orji.
Joey Gatewood.
He had decent size, I guess. Yeah.
Oh, Kyle Frazier. Okay.
Yes.
Another one. Sure.
Who else?
Anthony Richardson.
I'd
probably stay away from that one too if you're talking about athletic ability.
That one's not fair. Let's keep going. Joe Milton.
Yeah, if you're talking arm strength, don't make that comp.
Joe Milton was definitely the next Cam Newton that couldn't run. And
he's a decent runner though.
Not bad. But he was definitely Cam Newton.
Didn't see him running away from Patrick Peterson in a game, but
no. What about like Von Miller? You know the one that drives me the most crazy?
The guys that we watch that we just say, you're not supposed to do that.
Yes.
Let's stay away from the comps on those guys.
I'm just going to be honest with you. There's two comps that drive me insane. It's pretty simple. It's not a difficult thing. Megatron, Calvin Johnson.
Yeah, just let that one. Let's
he's a big receiver. Must be like Megatron. No, not so much.
Well, he attacks the ball like Randy Moss. Actually, he doesn't.
No.
I'm just going to go ahead and fill you out.
Really.
Let's just go ahead and clear the air. He doesn't. It's not a real thing.
The others are that absolutely drive me insane. Any quarterback under 6 foot is either Russell Wilson or Drew Brees.
Mm-hmm.
That's
used to be Flutie, but yeah.
Flutie. No, he's old news.
Yeah.
But if he does yoga on the plane, it might be a fair comp.
It's true. Broncos country, let's ride. And then the third one now, and it's recent. It's a recent one, but you cannot make this comparison. Any undersized defensive tackle is Aaron Donald.
No, we're not going to do that one.
All of them.
We're not going to do the Aaron Donald.
Howard Cross is just like Aaron Donald.
That we love Howard Cross on this show, and
we do.
You're actually fired as a listener if you try to bring that here. Like I've been fired from a doctor before. Like it's not supposed to work that way. Mm-hmm. You're fired as a listener from this show if you think Howard Cross is Aaron Donald. We're not doing that.
Every game manager is Greg McElroy.
We're not doing that.
All of them.
All of them. Every single one.
Every single one.
I'll give you one that sort of disgusts me is when people make the Adrian Peterson running back comp. It's like, hold on. So you're telling me you didn't watch Adrian Peterson in college is what you're telling me. You're telling me you didn't watch a guy who ran so hard his chin strap would come unbuckled mid-play. I couldn't keep his chin strap buckled because he ran so hard. And no, let's not do the Adrian Peterson running back comp. Like and Herschel's a total like that. That's just. I think most people are actually smart enough not to do that. Like, to just stay away from that.
They're too far removed from it now. Nobody remembers what they ran like. But I did make a Jeremiah Love Darren McFadden comp. Is that one allowed? Tall, slender,
not as
kind
tall,
of a high runner.
Yeah, but not as tall.
Not as big.
And I don't think has the straight line speed. And I know Love
as
can
McFadden?
Go. See, McFadden to me is like a small notch. Like McFadden is in that Adrian Peterson comp, but he didn't run like Adrian Peterson. Like McFadden was more like a wait until he saw it and then you couldn't catch him. But he could run through you too now. I mean, he could put his head down. Like people forget the Alabama game when it was tight. I won't know the year. And he basically was their quarterback in the fourth quarter of that game. And all they did is just sit there and say, all right, buddy, we can't throw the ball, so we're just going to direct snap it to you, and you're going to have to run. And there was 9 guys on the line of scrimmage the entire time. He was just putting his head down and grinding out 4 and 5 yards of chop.
What year was this? You said Alabama game?
It was in Tuscaloosa.
2007.
Maybe.
Well, we won that game, so kick rocks.
No. I said I
haters.
I feel like I just said
literally
that they lost.
It.
Like,
yes.
Tried to say that.
No, now I'm mad about it.
No, I think no, don't do the McFadden comp either.
That's a tough one.
Because he just listen, I love Kerryon Johnson. I think Kerryon was amazing when he was at Auburn. If he stays healthy, he's I think people talk about him like they should be talking about him with some other great backs in Auburn history. But like people used to make the Darren McFadden comp with him, and I was like, no, guys, yeah, you didn't watch DFAD. Like the dude took over games.
DFAD, that was his name.
That's what I call him. So we already have messages into the show that every small receiver, Jalen Waddle.
Now what?
Yeah, that's
I
another
don't know
one.
that one.
Watch
Every like versatile receiver.
If you're a shorter receiver, you can't just be Jalen Waddle because you haven't watched Jalen Waddle run. If you think that that's the case,
What about every coach on the field slot receiver is Danny Amendola or Edelman or Wes Welker. Wes Welker.
Yeah, nobody goes with the Don Beebe comp back in the day.
No,
It's 'cause he could
that's
float.
weird. Yeah.
Everybody just leaves that one alone.
I remember how people were like, Lad McConkey's just like Wes Welker. I was like, except he's a deep threat.
He takes it over the top often.
Except he did have a post to the house in the last game.
Who else should be on your list of never comp players?
Cooper DeJean.
Easy. I can comp him.
Can you?
Yes.
Was Cooper DeJean the next Jason Sehorn?
Seahorn.
I don't know. Sehorn may have been
I don't
a
know if he's
precursor to
dating an
Cooper.
actress yet, but we will give Sehorn credit for that.
The other comps that you just can't make. You just don't want to compare a guy to Julius Peppers. Oh, look at him on the hoof.
The athleticism was probably not what you think.
You're going to hear about it nonstop with Shamar Stewart coming out through this draft. Just get ready. You're going to hear many, many times him either compared to Julius Peppers or...
Yeah, I haven't seen Shamar Stewart come off the bench and dunk in a game against the best basketball conference in the country multiple times. So we're going to stay away from it.
What does that have to do with anything? Being athletic or something?
Yeah, just the athleticism. Julius Peppers played for North Carolina.
Mac
when
McClung
the
can
ACC
dunk.
was, well, he didn't do it. He's posting guys up.
Coach on the dunk contest.
By the way, I think he's favored to win it this year.
Of course he is.
Is he on a roster?
Yes.
Whose?
G League, I think.
Stop it. I mean, a real roster.
I'm not kidding.
The Bay City Colonels.
How do we keep letting this happen?
What do you mean?
He's an NBA player.
So
Just
we're
because-
doing NFL skills competition for the Pro Bowl this weekend. Trust me, we have to watch it in my house because for some reason 7-year-old thinks it is the coolest thing that's ever happened. And he's only seen commercials. Why does Vinny Testaverde not come out this weekend and sling it around again? Or Jeff George, since they have like the greatest arms in history.
Jamarcus.
By the way, this is Joe Milton's weekend. Get him out there this weekend. Like this is his time to shine. If Mac McClung can come be a part of NBA All-Star Weekend, by God, Joe Milton needs to be out there for Pro Bowl Skills Weekend.
You have to make the Pro Bowl.
No, you don't. That's not a real thing. Why would you have to be on the All-Star team to compete in All-Star Weekend or even on a team? Just get everybody out there.
You're asking the wrong
part
question.
of the Orlando Magic's roster, the Osceola Magic in the G League.
The other Magic,
Yes.
the slip of the hand.
He
The
has
Magic
played in a
Man.
game this year.
What is like less than average Magic? Hocus Pocus? That's what they should be called.
Maybe, I guess. Yeah.
The Magic's G League should be called Hocus Pocus.
I really don't even know what would be better than that. I feel like Hocus Pocus kind of nailed it.
Yeah, that's it. It's a Disney movie. The synergy's there.
Yep. Feels right.
Mac McClung was born in the wrong era. He was 20 years too late because if And1 tour was still going, Mac McClung would be the professor with hops.
Why has he got to be the professor?
I said with hops.
Why can't he be Cadillac or whatever?
50? Escalade?
Escalade.
Well, Escalade was 500 pounds, so I don't think Mac McClung's going to replace him.
The problem is you already had Jason Williams or J-Dub back then.
He was actually on the roster.
Yeah. Well, I know, but I mean.
And when he couldn't be on the roster anymore, he stopped playing.
Yeah. Pass the ball, though.
What can Mac McClung not do? Shoot? And I'm not being mean here. I'm just asking, like, is that his problem? He can't make shots?
Probably.
Does he not have handles?
I don't know
Does
because
he not
this
like to
year
pass? Does he go Kobe too often?
Someone
His-
tells me he can shoot.
field goal
Really?
percentage is 0.0. His 3-point
Your
percentage
boy
is
Ford says he can shoot.
Ford, can he shoot?
0. He's gotten a rebound. He can rebound.
Ford, we don't bring think in here. You
We
either
have
know
a-
or you don't. There's no think.
We have a
can pass the
special
ball.
guest. We have a special guest on the show with us today. His name is Ford, and he will be joining us throughout the show. So when we reference Ford, know that it's the third member of our crew in studio, and an extension of John Saber and producing the show.
Okay, give
Now
us that.
Saber won't let him in the office because he
So
could
he's
press a
not allowed.
button and things could go haywire and we could go on Talk 99.5 and that would be dicey.
So go there again, John. What were you just telling us?
This entire year, it's obviously not shooting because his field goal percentage is 0, 3-point percentage is 0, free throw percentage is 0, but he's gotten a rebound and 2 assists this year.
So he doesn't play?
He didn't say.
Oh, he does. I see the stats.
Tell me he didn't say a rebound.
Has he been hurt?
It's a defensive rebound.
How many dunks does he have?
0 because he scored no points.
All right, there's something.
I bet he
He
sells
must
tickets
be
for
hurt.
warm-ups, though.
He must be hurt.
No, I think he's now. Granted, this is professional. This is in the NBA. I don't know about his G League.
No, I want to know
stats.
about the G League stats. I
I
don't
ain't
care
looking
about
at
the
that.
NBA stats.
That's not what matters.
I don't know.
You exercise some hocus pocus to figure this out because
I mean, so he's not as good as Bronny.
I don't know.
What? Oh,
Bronny
Bronny
has points
scored.
technically. Yeah.
Bronny scored.
He also wears slippers on the bench. I saw it with my own eyes.
Are they Nike slippers?
Absolutely not. They looked way more expensive than that.
On a scale of 1 to Shador Sanders' fashion expertise, where does Bronny fall?
I haven't
Cam Newton.
seen the gram. I don't really know. I don't know where he's in there.
But
Think he has
McClung is a career 46% free field goal shooter.
See?
Career 35% 3-point shooter.
I feel like
See?
when you're that good at dunks, your field
Ford
goal
knew
percentage
it.
should be a little higher. But that's just me. I'm not a basketball guy.
I don't even think he's shooting 46% in dunk contests.
Stop.
You get to miss like 7 now before they count the 1. So dumb.
All right. Well, he's still better than Nate Robinson.
I can tell you what I won't be doing is watching the NBA All-Star game.
Nate Robinson.
Why?
This NBA All-Star game is the dumbest thing ever. The only thing that was cool last year was the court. The court was worth 5 minutes.
Did they do that? The like 4K court like Kentucky did in
Yeah.
preseason.
Yeah, it was like it was
I don't know
cool.
what you call it. CGI court.
Yeah, it was wild. That was cool. I will not be watching the rest of it.
What else is on Sunday when the All-Star game is on though? Nothing.
Doesn't
There's
matter.
like one Mountain West women's hoops game on. There's literally nothing else on. So you at least
I
put it
happen
on
to
in the
like
background.
Mountain West women's hoops.
Didn't say I didn't. I'm just saying there's almost no competition. Put that on the side TV.
Who's in the Mountain West now? for
Utah
women's hoops?
State,
Utah State, send it.
Boise for a couple months. I think.
Pre-pack,
Yeah,
pre-pack Boise.
of course. All right, so we asked the question.
Louisville against Notre Dame will be on basketball. There's something.
Huge.
Huge.
So we asked the question. You give us your answers. 800-239-9569, 800-239-WJOX. Text in 205-834-9450. Tweet in at Mac and Cube. Who are players that should never be comped? You can even go other sports if you want, but we're talking mainly football right now. What football players should never be comped when discussing recruiting or the NFL draft? We'll do that on the other side. We'll hear from Hugh Freeze on the other side. Andy Staples in 10 minutes on the show. Well, 12 or 13 minutes discussing Hugh Freeze potentially being on the hot seat this upcoming season. But Valentine's Day is right around the corner, Greg, and Bromberg's can help all of us out.
Yeah, Bromberg's great. I know I've had great experiences when I've gone into Bromberg's. I've been in there, gosh, for just about every special occasion for the last 8 years. Since we moved back, it's the only place I've gone to make a great purchase. And Valentine's Day is around the corner. Go into Bromberg's right now and get yourself something special for the person in your life that is most special to you. Go and get yourself one of those Vietri hibiscus glass vases as well. These are handmade in Italy. They are elegant, they're beautiful, and they come with a free bouquet of fresh flowers if you purchase them on the 13th or 14th of February. You can also add a gold-plated heart charm to tie around the vase. It's personalized, engraved, monogram, name, special date, you name it. They have it. The engraving will be offered on the 13th at the Summit and the 14th at the Mountain Brook store. So go and check out Bromberg's today in Mountain Brook Village and at the Summit.
Bad news for Greg. 26 years ago on this day, The Sopranos episode Meadowlands premiered.
Ooh.
Of season 1, episode 4. Greg thinks it's a terrible show.
Never said that. Just
I
haven't
have
watched it.
great news for Birmingham on the other side. I will give you that breaking news next on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. I did get a great text into the show during the break on football players that should never be comped. We'll get to that one here in just a moment, but we'll go to the Twitter feed. ESPN Crick Info. It's got a gold check mark too, so it's real. Now, this is not your local water stream in the backyard that's getting updated. This is actual cricket information, Greg.
Oh, my.
Okay.
At ESPN Crick Info.
Gotcha.
Am I the only one that got that? I thought it was good.
I don't understand now. Lost.
Updating your crick in your backyard. Like not a stream or a river, but just forget it.
Gotcha. Okay, so it's a pun.
NFL legend Tom Brady could soon turn up at Eggbaston after Knighthead Capital Management, the investment firm he's partnered with, bought a 49% stake in 100 franchise Birmingham Phoenix for $41 million. We're getting cricket in Birmingham?
Let's ride.
I mean, we have.
Who's going?
And we have lacrosse. We have other sports that are not mainstream. Lacrosse is super mainstream now here in Birmingham. Why can't cricket become mainstream in Birmingham?
I think it was the wrong Birmingham, but I got excited for a minute.
Dang it.
I thought we were going to have Brady and cricket in Birmingham. All right, here are a couple good don't comps being tweeted into the show. Don't compare any defensive tackle to Ndamukong Suh. It's fair. Derek Thomas be another good one. Not a lot of people these days seem to have seen it, but yes, that is one that you stay away from.
Lawrence Taylor.
John Hill tweets in, can we please stay off Cam Newton coverage? Dude's an idiot, makes people turn the channel. I don't want to turn my phone off my morning show. There is a conspiracy theory that might be worth listening to. We may get to that later in the show. Also being texted into the show, Derrick Henry, which is a good one.
Oh, yeah.
Stay away from that one.
Spot on.
Kind of like the old Earl Campbell comp. Steer clear of that one. They don't make the jumbo running backs like they used to.
What about Christian McCaffrey comps?
Well, those are much more difficult to come by. But yeah, I wouldn't.
I hear a lot of Derek. I hear a lot of Christian McCaffrey comps.
I would love to know who fits that mold.
Scattaboo. Let's start there.
Okay. No, they didn't.
Yes, they do.
Well, while he was at Carolina, you could say
no one really did that.
Joel Embiid. They were both hurt all the damn time.
Percentage of games played?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't think that's fair because I think Embiid's healthy. I don't think he chooses not to play. He's like, hold on, I'm still getting checks and I can just rest.
Yeah.
We're good. I'll see you in the playoffs. Maybe. No, there's no Christian McCaffrey comp. Like Reggie Bush.
Scattaboo.
Yeah, no. We're not doing that. You do that on these airwaves, you're fired.
Rex Burkhead.
Stop that madness right now. I do think Chris McCaffrey's a good one, though.
Danny Woodhead.
Guy could legit line up as a slot receiver and be successful.
He'd be a top 5
NFL
slot receiver in the NFL.
Yeah, no doubt.
And if you line up in the slot, guess what he would call him? Wes Welker.
No,
Danny Amendola, Julian Edelman.
We wouldn't do that. Not here. So that couple good ones coming in. You can still tweet into the show. Or hit us up, 800-239-9569. Rolando McClain is one that was also tweeted into the show. There was a while there where it seemed like every few years at Alabama that comp was made. And a lot of those guys ended up being really, C.J. Mosley was really good. Reuben Foster, really good. Reggie Ragland, really good. It doesn't have to be Rolando McClain, though.
They're just different players. I mean, Rolando played in an era where it was like mostly 3'4", 265-pound downhill thumper with length.
Yeah, Reuben Foster, not that guy.
Reuben Foster played in a nickel era where he played off the ball will and was a great blitzer and could run sideline to sideline. It was just a different era. Like they're not even the same. They're not a comparison at all.
Yeah, they're the same jersey.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's right. My bad.
On the
I think
roster,
Rolando is 30 pounds
position.
heavier and 3 inches taller.
Yeah, there's not even.
That's like comparing Derek. That's literally like comparing Derrick Henry and TJ Yeldon.
The only physical comp to Rolando, I think, would have been Reggie Ragland. CJ Mosley was like wiry in college. Like he used to slither through the line of scrimmage. Like he was very he was very. He could just sneak through blocks and like sneak through the line of scrimmage. Like he didn't.
He wasn't going to overpower
as,
you.
No, he wasn't as downhill as Reggie was or as Rolando was.
Now, Reggie Ragland would be the closest to Rolando as far as type of player. Like
Reuben Foster, he would literally arrive at plays before they developed. Like he would be in the backfield before the back cut back on a counter. You're just like, hold on, what? How did he even arrive there? That doesn't make sense.
He was built different, brah.
There's no doubt.
I'm trying to think of like someone else that would have come up like in the last handful of years that would be comparable to.
Oh, he's Mark
Rolando.
Barron. He's Mark Barron. It's like, he's not 240 running like that. Probably not. No, I don't think so. No.
Mark Barron?
Yeah. Well, I'm saying they like guys would take all the next safeties like Minka Fitzpatrick or Landon Collins. Like, oh, he's Mark Barron. It's like, well, he can just be really good and just be him.
Yeah.
But like those dudes weren't as big as Mark Barron was.
No.
I can remember I met Mark Barron the same time that I met you at the signing in Huntsville. And I was like, God, you're a safety?
Mark's a big boy.
What? I played with inside linebackers a lot smaller than you.
No, he was a big boy.
They were not named Takeo Spikes, by the way.
No.
That would also be another comp I'd steer clear of. Specifically with just neck size. Just stay away from that. All right, Andy Staples is at the Senior Bowl. He'll give us an update on neck measurements from Mobile next on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Russell Terry tweets into the show, the only Takeo neck comp I can think of is Brock Lesnar. Oh, it's good. Mike Keene also tweets in, there's only one Reggie White and Walter Payton. It's fair. Because even if you start doing the whole Barry Sanders, Walter Payton, like they were just different backs, like just different. Like Walter ran through people, and people don't realize that because he was so elusive and could move so well, but he also just, he'd get those legs churning, would run through you. AC's dad tweets in, always thought Hightower was closer to Rowe than anyone. But we've had the Hightower conversation, Greg, as to how he could go line up on the end line of scrimmage. He could have been an every down D end if he
he was quite a bit more twitchy than Rowe, not as big as Rowe.
Not as long.
Not as long, nearly.
That's
but
the thing, like Hightower had like 40-inch arms, it felt like. I mean, like his wingspan was just massive. So
he was a big boy, but he wasn't as big as Rowe.
Oh no, I'm saying Rolando's wingspan was like,
oh my
God.
He
was like an NBA guy out there sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, he was like a basketball build, but at 265.
Yeah, it's just
he was big.
He had attributes that just normal humans don't have.
Yeah, I mean, if Rowe played now, he'd be a He would not be a linebacker. He'd be an edge. He'd be an edge.
He'd probably be a pretty good one too. Be fine with that. All right. Well, effort Andy Staples again did not pick up the first time around, but one of the things we were going to discuss with Andy was his coaching hot seat list, and Hugh Freeze was on that list. He's down at the Senior Bowl right now, and he was asked about some of the incoming quarterbacks: Jackson Arnold, Deuce Knight. This is what the Auburn head coach had to say about some of the new QBs heading to his roster.
Yeah, I think Jackson just, if you go back to, his high school days, you don't get to become the Gatorade Player of the Year without a great skill set. And when I see, the way he functions with the fundamentals of that position with what we want to do, it's a pretty natural fit. And, obviously the unknown is, why he didn't have the confidence. And I just am a firm believer that I don't know. I believe in him. I believe in our system, and think he's a really good fit for it. That we can restore whatever confidence he may have lost, for whatever reason. It's not for me to say, but I know that our receivers are like, this is different. This ball is a little is spinning the right way. They're saying that about both of them, Deuce and him. So believe in him, believe in Deuce. Deuce is, man, the maturity he's got is even after we recruited him, I still wasn't quite as aware. He's in there studying every day, and man, he doesn't want to wait around and to be great. He's trying hard now to pick up every drop of knowledge that he can. So excited about those two guys.
So that's Hugh Freeze down in Mobile for the Senior Bowl, where Andy Staples was earlier this week with the On3 Sports Network. Joins us now on the Buyers Right Hotline. So Hugh Freeze, the guy that you had on your hot seat list when you put it out earlier this week. We discussed it here on the show. But here's what's interesting about that name, Andy, and I feel like obviously wins and losses are important. Right. And you may not follow this initially. I had to kind of explain it on the show. I feel like he is in more control of how hot his seat is this year, maybe than the actual football. Now, if the football's terrible, we throw it all out the window. But the things that are repeatedly said, the things that are repeatedly discussed about the roster and the talent and the quarterback situation and some of the blaming, I feel like if that can correct itself, the seat actually becomes less hot than maybe some of the other things that fans will pay attention to.
I actually think it's just it's pretty pure football. Him and Billy Napier are kind of in the same boat because, like, if you notice, I had Auburn ranked number 11 on my way too early top 25. So, like, I think Hugh Freeze is going to be fine. I think he's going to coach his way out of it. I put him on the list because if this season resembles last season in any way, they will fire him. And Napier's the same thing. I think they're actually going to be good enough at Florida that he will keep his job. But if they backslide, if they're not improved, then he won't. And I really think it comes down to football. It's interesting that you mentioned that with Hugh, because I do think people were very annoyed with the way he handled some of those situations. But I honestly don't think they'll care if he's winning, and I don't think they'll care if he's losing. Like, I always tell coaches and ADs, like, nobody worries about how many friends you make if you're 11-0 or if you're 1-11. Like, it's in the middle ground where you got to worry about that stuff. But I don't know where the middle ground is for Auburn. Like, I think if they're better, and I do think having a 3-man quarterback competition is going to produce better quarterback play than they had last year. And the roster's good. Like, they were in every game except Alabama last year. Like, they're going to be better. So I think as long as that happens and there's not some massive implosion that causes them to lose a bunch of games, that he's fine.
What do you think would constitute a successful season, though? I mean, what does success look like for him in year 2 or year 3? Excuse me.
I mean, he set the bar pretty low last year, so I think if you win 8 games, then I think people are probably like, okay, you're making acceptable progress here, and there's no reason that team shouldn't be able to win at least 8 games this year.
I wouldn't disagree with that based on the talent that's there. My problem with that in the projection as far as wins would go is that I think a lot of people are looking at the overall ability of Jackson Arnold and the lack of quarterbacking from Jackson Arnold. Like, he's got to be coached. He's got to be reset. And so I just think it's a little bit of a further reach than other people do. Andy, I think a lot of people look at it as, oh, here's former 5-star coming in. They're just going to be great. And
I'm
that's
also
not how it
assuming
works.
it's Jackson Arnold,
Cole. That's not how it works. No, sorry.
I'm assuming he has to beat out Ashton Daniels and Deuce Knight, and that if it's not working, that you're going to change it. Because I think last year they hung around with Peyton Thorne probably longer than they should have, and you've got to do, if you're getting the same stuff as last year, the same problems as last year from the quarterback position, you're going to have to try things differently, because that's when you will be in real danger if you're Hugh Freeze.
Definitely seems that way. What do you make of the other additions? I know so much has been made about the addition of Jackson Arnold, and the recruiting class is rock solid, but what do you make of Singleton and some of the other guys they've been able to go out and get?
Well, Singleton I love. You put him with Cam Coleman, because the thing about it is it's not just having one really good receiver. You need someone else who scares you, that forces people to not focus on that one, or if they do focus on the one guy who's really scary, the other guy can just beat you. And we saw that with Ohio State this year. You can do all you want with Jeremiah Smith, but if you do that, if you concentrate a lot of resources toward Jeremiah Smith, Emeka Egbuka just annihilates you. And I think that's where you can have a lot of fun, because Cam Coleman obviously is a physical freak. You have to worry about him, but you can move Singleton around and have him do some things, play a little Where's Waldo with him, that can just really annoy a defense, especially if that defense is worrying a lot about Cam Coleman, where you probably have a safety, watching him most of the time. Like, you can sneak Eric Singleton into some places where he can make some big plays, because he's one of those, you get him the ball in space and suddenly an 8-yard pass becomes a 70-yard gain.
Andy Staples of the On3 Sports Network joining us on the Buyers Right Hotline. I want to go to a couple of those other ones. Billy Napier, it looks like he really turned things around in the second half of the season. And of course, DJ Lagway coming back. It's interesting that it's kind of still where it is for a lot of folks. How hot is the seat? What does it really need to have to be for him to just be okay? And are we in Sam Pittman territory, which this is my opinion, not yours. I'm not putting words in your mouth, but I don't think Sam's ever off the hot seat. I think you can go to the playoff and certain people will be like, yeah, but recruiting, or yeah, but this guy.
Well, I don't think – I think getting to the playoff will get Sam off the hot seat, but I do think he will just exist perpetually on the hot seat unless they win like 10 or 11 games. Like that's just – he'll be on that plateau forever, because that is the Arkansas job, because even when you're good, you're still probably winning 8 and 9, which the administration understands is good, but the fan base, maybe not. With Florida, they got to be better than they were last year, which, look, if it's the team you saw at the end of the season, that team can compete with everybody on the schedule. That team can possibly go to the playoff. And I think I came out of the last season going, okay, they're bringing him back. It's playoff or bust. And I've had some people around the program tell me the same thing. I don't think it has to be the playoff for him to keep his job. I think if they had an Ole Miss in 2024 type season, that's probably an acceptable rate of progress, because you're right there is what that means. But they can't be what they were, and they can't be worse than what they were. That's the line right there. Like 7-5 is not going to be good enough this time. And yeah, the schedule's still hard. I mean, it's a mirror image of last year's schedule with the Miami game in a different place, but they should be able to manage that. I mean, if you go back to last season, they should have beaten Tennessee. There were some bad coaching decisions, including you should have been starting DJ Lagway by that point. Like, if he starts that game, Florida beats Tennessee. If Lagway doesn't get hurt against Georgia, they were in it with the backup in the fourth quarter. Like, so they are kind of right there. You wonder with the portal, did they bring in enough? But it was interesting. I talked to Billy about this at the Senior Bowl the other day, and he's a big culture guy. He's a big, I want to know who I'm going in here with. And you know what? If he didn't know who he had, if the guys weren't the type of guys they were this past season, they would have quit on him after the Texas A&M game, and he would have been fired. Like, he actually did a good job building that locker room culture. So if that takes another step too, they should be pretty good this year.
What about the kind of, I don't want to call them sleepers, but like the teams that are perennially stuck in neutral, the teams that I would describe as your Texas A&Ms. I feel like South Carolina's got a chance to come back a little bit. I think last year was a little bit of a perfect storm. They caught some teams at the right time, and they probably slightly overachieved. So I'd include them in that category. Like, is there one of those sleeper teams that's kind of a middle tier, 8-5, 9-4 type team that could rally up this year?
Well, South Carolina, I think everybody's expecting a lot from them, and I am too. They usually, when they have some top tier talent, they just have it and it leaves, and they have that perfect storm situation. But Lenore Sellers, Dylan Stewart, Josiah Washington, those guys are back. Like, Mazio Bennett was looking really good as a freshman receiver until he got hurt. They have talent there. Now, you wish they had another year with Nick Amon-Wari or some of those guys that really flashed, like Kyle Kennard. But Shane Beamer's done a good enough job of getting some top-line talent, like some of the guys that you normally would see at a Georgia or an Ohio State. And so when you have a couple of those special guys at once, that's a pretty big deal. We think Lenore Sellers is one of those. We know Dylan Stewart is one of those. So if Lenore Sellers takes another step, and now you've got a full offseason, because remember last year they were kind of pretending he wasn't the starting quarterback in the offseason. Like, now you're really building around Lenore Sellers. And I think he's barely scratched the surface. I like he and DJ Lagway, I'm so excited about what they can be if they reach their full potential. And I think the South Carolina folks are looking at what Sellers was doing when, they were pretty sure he's the guy, and they're pretty sure that's what the offense is going to look like. But I don't know if they discovered what their offense really should be until probably like the first half of the LSU game, and then he twists his ankle. So, like, now you know what the offense should look like with Lenore Sellers, and you've got an entire offseason to just build on that.
Andy, I want to take a massive left turn here and just get your thoughts on this, because we're going to discuss it later in the show, and I always appreciate your thoughts on sort of the other side of college sports and where we're headed. This story from Sportico that the Big Ten is already taking bids from private equity groups on different portions of their conference teams. I'm not really sure exactly how it's going to operate, but what are your thoughts just seeing the report?
Same thing I've said every time I see this private equity stuff. The people who run college sports really don't want this. Whether they may think they do because the cash is readily available, they don't want this. The ADs are so bad at managing money. Private equity people are about margins. Like, they're about their return. When they give you that money, they expect a certain return. And if they're not getting it, they will hack and slash you to death until they get it. So all of these ADs who've been just getting destroyed by the Jimmy Sextons of the world and who've been, we can build a new softball stadium. Sure, no problem. No, your world is about to get shaken up in a bad way. And part of this is just me being scarred from being in the newspaper industry and watching what private equity did there. It's not what they think it is. It's, everybody loves when somebody's dangling cash in front of you, but in a couple of years when they come back and they say, well, like you promised us this percentage rate of return and we ain't getting it. So here are the 9 things you're going to do now. Good luck with that.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that one. Andy, great stuff, man. Always appreciate the time. Look forward to catching up soon.
Thanks, guys.
Andy Staples with the On3 Sports Network talking Hugh Freeze hot seat, other coaches hot seat, private equity in college football. We'll get to our top 3 next on Mac and Cube in the morning.
We'll get back to it.
All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning, 7:51, Friday, January 31st, right here on Jocks 94.5. Going to get to our top 3 in just a moment. No need for a top 3. There's only one realtor you need to call in Birmingham, Alabama if you need a new home. Gusty Gouls in the Gusty Gouls Group, 205-542-1996. They've helped family members of mine get out of their home, get into a new home, get top dollar, find real estate that they didn't know was going to be available, because Gusty Gouls has served more than 3,000 home buyers and sellers in the greater Birmingham area. He knows what's coming next. He knows what's out there, and he wants to help you find it and get top dollar for your home. Go to GustyGoulsGroup.com right now on your phone, button at the top of the page. Click that, very little information. They're going to let you know what your home's worth, what they can do for you right this second. Investing thousands of dollars in the latest tools, Gusty Gouls Group, brokered by eXp Realty, can help you get into a new home, get top dollar for your home. Call today, 205-542-1996, or visit GustyGoulsGroup.com and start packing. John, top 3 today. What do you have?
Well, in honor of it being National Hot Chocolate Day, give me your top 3 drinks. Keep it simple, kind of short on time, and honestly, leave water out of it because that's, I want fun drinks.
Busch Light.
I forget the actual name of it, but I think it's Mountain something. Blue Powerade is going to be number 1.
Mountain Dew?
No. Blue Powerade. It's called like Mountain Berry or something weird.
Gosh.
Blue Powerade is going to be number 1.
Blue Pow?
Number 2 is going to be Coke Zero. Number 3 is going to be coffee. There you
What
go.
kind?
Black.
How do you take it?
Not watered down like up here.
Wow, you can do double.
I don't make the coffee here, but whoever does likes water.
You can do double beans. I've done that up here before.
Just get it as dark as you can. Caffeinate as much as you can. Parentheses on 3, Cuban coffee. I don't know where to get it here, but God, I love that stuff.
There's a great Cuban restaurant downtown. I just don't know if they have Cuban coffee.
We have a Cuban salesperson. She's brought it in.
Does she make it here?
She has once.
Can she make it at 6:50 every morning here?
We need you here every day at 6:50.
That'd help a lot.
That would be great.
That's going to be, is it sales?
Correct, yes.
Okay. My next, when asked to do read for, will be Cuban coffee every morning, trade my talent fee. There we go. I'll do it.
First of all, let's not just start doing it for trade. That's a lot of Cuban coffee, kid.
That's fair.
I like where you're at. I'm about to say that's an expensive Cuban coffee. All right. Mine are very simple. Illy coffee. ILLY, Illy. My buddy, Chris, turned me onto this in COVID. Illy coffee is my favorite coffee.
Oh, okay.
DeMarco?
Chris DeMarco, yeah, golfer.
Weber?
Chris Weber. Me and him have been tight for a long time. You didn't know that.
Everett.
We're really
Everett.
close. No. Chris Vines, former Brave. Great member guest champion.
Yeah, he carries you in those things.
He does.
Mhm.
There have been times when he has carried me. Can confirm. So he put me on Illy coffee. That's in there as one of my top 3. Number 2, Diet Dr. Pepper. Simple, piece of cake, never doubt. And then number 1, Miller Lite or Coors Light. Don't care. Doesn't matter. Prefer either one depending on the time of day. Gold top or silver bullet, doesn't matter.
I'm going to be honest with you. I thought your list was going to be very different, G-Mac.
Correct, yes. That is,
Whiskey,
he's a man of the people. Who knew?
beer, champagne. What?
He's a man of the people. Who knew?
I did think one of your fancy bourbons was going to be in there.
No, because I mean, if I'm gonna to me, a bourbon is not really like a drink.
Okay.
It's kind of like
A food?
a shot,
Specialty
a
item.
food.
Oh, okay. Mm.
Bear.
Number 3 for me is a chai latte. Quite tasty. I love it. Number 2.
I've never had that. My mother-in-law
had that.
likes it.
They're good.
Pretty good.
Yeah. Number 2 is Barks root beer. Best root beer out there.
Barks.
Yes. They have bite.
It's good.
Plus, it's a New Orleans thing. Number 1, chocolate milk. Come on.
Wow.
Wow, I didn't see that coming. Ford, do you have a top 3?
Didn't know we were
Top 3 drinks.
7 this morning on the show.
Yeah,
either.
top
Don't
3
act like you wouldn't
drinks.
want chocolate milk.
You have 30 seconds, Ford. So top 3 things that
You
you
also have to
drink.
speak into the microphone.
Yeah.
That's
Root beer.
Root beer. Barks.
is it Barks?
Barks.
You were nodding when he
told you.
said that.
Barks root beer. Chocolate milk,
Chocolate milk, all right.
and then blue Powerade.
Blue Powerade. So,
That's it.
So
both
we have
of
the
you
Powerade
guys are in
Powerades.
9th grade.
You can't beat it,
Congratulations.
All
man.
right, then. Who knew?
Very
No
good.
other Powerade is as good as most Gatorades, but the blue Powerade is the best. of all
Powerade
sports
Zero or
drinks.
Powerade regular?
Get out of here.
Yeah, come on now.
We ain't
The
trying
blue
to save
Powerade
calories
Zero
on
rips.
this. We're not saving calories in this discussion. No.
I said chocolate
You
milk. I
said
didn't
Coke
say skim.
Zero.
The Buffalo Rock ginger ale also legit.
It's heavy, but it's good.
Hour number 2 underway Friday, January 31st, 8 a.m. on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. We did ask the question a little earlier in the show because there was a dangerous comp made to an incoming college football freshman. What football players should never be comped? Plain and simple. What football players should never be compared to other players? We've got a couple other good ones in. Bo Jackson's coming in. A lot of folks going there. Lamar Jackson, Megatron, you mentioned him.
I feel like there's a lot of Lamars from time to time. Like, I don't think it's a fair one at all. Lamar is one of one.
But I'll be honest with you. I feel better about, and I don't even know who I'm talking about. I feel better about a potential comp to Lamar than I do to Cam Newton, only because of the size. And I just don't think people have any idea physically what you're dealing with Cam Newton. If you hadn't been up next to him, you just don't get it. You can't do it.
You don't get it, do you?
You don't get it.
You just don't get it.
You don't. Alex Page tweets in, try Cool Corner in Vestavia. They may have, well, don't give me a may have Cuban coffee, Alex. They either have it or they don't. If they've got it, I'll go. And I'll give them free plugs on the air because I don't know anybody else in Birmingham that has Cuban coffee. Also, I don't see myself driving to Vestavia before the show every morning. E. Robinson tweets in, grape Crystal Light, coconut berry Red Bull with vodka and Moscow Mule.
What?
Those are complicated.
So you drink
drinks.
the Moscow Mule with a Red Bull vodka?
No, those are two different things.
Okay, I'm
top
sorry.
3,
I
not
didn't
top
know that.
1.
Altogether.
Still, that's aggressive.
We used to have a name for that at the old soda machine back in the day that I feel like you're not allowed to call it anymore. But Peter Marvin has a good one. Anyone to Lawrence Taylor. Yeah, don't make that comp. Just find another edge guy. He's not the one. No. All right, let's go to the Buyers Right Hotline. David Hale covers the ACC. Joining us now on the phones. David, is there a player comp that you feel like should just never be made? Like just physically, the gifts given from God or what they did on the field. Just don't make the comp. Just find another guy for that position.
The first name that pops into my head is Greg McElroy, of course.
But no, there are very few Rhodes Scholars playing football.
That's what it is.
Finalists, sorry, finalists.
Yeah.
Right. But if you set aside, I don't know, is it too soon to suggest Travis Hunter is one of one? I mean, we've not. Really
I think the further down the road we get, we will probably say, not that
well,
guy.
Everyone that plays both ways will be compared to Travis Hunter from now on. Like, that's just an unfortunate reality.
And frankly, Dion probably belonged in that category or belongs in that category too, to some extent. It is funny. I heard you talking about Cam. I could not agree more with you on that. I remember last year hearing some Florida State fans say, like, well, maybe DJU can be a little Cam-like. And I was like, that makes my head want to explode.
I feel like Dan Kendra would be a better comp for DJ Uiagalelei than Cam Newton would. So, but yeah, the ACC in the news right now for potentially new television deal. And normally that would make a little bit of noise, but the reason this makes more noise is because of the new potential revenue sharing that could come with it. Just give us an update on sort of where things are, both from the media rights deal, that being renewed, and then also the revenue sharing moving forward, what that may look like.
Yeah. So the immediate thing, the thing that we actually know something definitive on is that the media deal was picked up by ESPN. I don't think this comes as a huge surprise to anybody who was paying attention. Certainly this is a thing that I had told people was coming. But, I think Florida State fans were hopeful that didn't matter. Regardless, that gets picked up, and it was an important first step because basically this allows the ACC to A, not fall apart and disintegrate like the Pac-12, but B, move forward with a plan to find some peace among its membership. So obviously everybody knows Florida State and Clemson are suing the league, but there's also, I think there was misgivings among some other schools, certainly Carolina, Miami, that felt they had larger value to the league than they were being compensated for. So I think what happened, or what has happened, is the death of the Pac-12 was a big wake-up call to some of the smaller schools in the ACC to say, we don't want to be Oregon State or Washington State. We need to do whatever we can to have as steady a footing moving forward as possible. So there is a groundswell of support for what would become a settlement deal with Florida State and Clemson, but would also benefit some of the other biggest brands in which the ACC is already doing what they call success initiatives. So there's a set aside pot of money that goes to the teams that perform the best on the field. There would be basically the same thing, except this would be rewarding brand value. Now, the sticking point is, how the heck do you calculate brand value? I know Florida State has their own methodology that says they're worth like $1 billion, but it's complicated because you even look at something. I was talking to somebody about this yesterday. Like, you look at a school like Syracuse that you would say is a small school that does not bring a ton of brand value to the ACC, but they bring the New York market for the ACC network, and the ACC network is extremely valuable to the ACC. So, like, how do you calculate all of that in? So there's a ton of, I think, hard math that needs to be done before any of that is signed on the bottom line, but it is certainly trending that way. So if all of that works itself out as we expect it will, I think there's runway for the ACC at least until the next round of TV deals for every other league comes on the market, which would be the 2030, 2031 area, which if you can get 5 years of peace in this league at this time in college football, I think everybody considers that a huge win.
Yeah, take it for sure. I also feel like this is very beneficial for the ACC for sure, but it does not necessarily mean, like, everyone has always pointed to Florida State and Clemson. I'm not saying that those two are not attractive, but the most attractive, according to everyone I talked to, has always been North Carolina and Virginia. Does it now settle things down for North Carolina and Virginia, even though they're not publicly out challenging the grant of rights? Does this kind of appease that tension as well?
I think so. And again, a little bit of this comes down to how will the final numbers work out. But I think it will keep everyone happy for the near term. Because what we learned a little bit, and we didn't learn a ton from these lawsuits that Clemson and Florida State have filed yet, but what we have learned is that even if there is a way out of your grant of rights, it is not a pleasant process. It's expensive and messy and ugly, and I don't think anybody was eager to do it beyond the two who already did it. So I think if there is a formula set, and I think Carolina in particular stands to benefit from this a good bit. And I should say, with the brand initiative stuff, basketball is a part of this too. So Virginia, Carolina, Duke benefit on that end. Is it the basketball angle right there? Is that comparable? Is it equitable to the football appeal, or is football weighted differently than basketball? Well, again, I think some of this is to be determined.
Gotcha.
And I think a little bit of it is like, how big is your brand appeal? So Duke's brand appeal in basketball is massive. I mean, aside from Kentucky, I'm not sure there is another school that moves the needle the way that Duke does. Virginia, when they won a national championship, a lot of people watched Virginia basketball. I don't know that the margin is quite there. So my guess is that will come down something along the lines of what like this House settlement is that basketball will be like 25% of the formula and football 75%, because that's largely where the revenue comes in.
How much do you feel like this is going to continue to cost? Like, is this just going to be solved fairly quickly? Is this something that's going to continue? We're going to see more lawsuits. We're going to see more threats from more teams. But when does this sort of, and I realize that almost nothing in college football is going to just settle in the near future, but do you see this sort of calming down anytime in the near future?
I think there will be a little bit of a calming down currently once this is settled, assuming it gets settled. Because if Carolina, Virginia, Florida State, Clemson, Miami, whatever, are not on the market or possible to go get, I don't know what the real value is. Like, there's going to be some shifts in as the Mountain West and the AAC and Pac-12 all fight it out for that. But I don't think it's like the big players are moving. But one of the things with this potential settlement that I think is sort of crucial to the whole thing, one of the things Clemson and Florida State are asking for is the ACC's grant of rights currently runs through 2036, which is how long this TV deal that ESPN just picked up would run through. Those two schools would like to see the ACC reduce the penalties for breaking the grant of rights after 2031. They say, why does 2031 matter? That's because that's when the TV deals for Big 12, SEC, and Big 10 are going to be up again. And I think a lot of folks that I've talked to around the industry believe that's sort of an inflection point where if we're going to see super leagues, if we're going to see a football breakaway, if we're going to see a separation of the A4 from the NCAA, whatever it's going to look like in the future, that's probably around the timeline that we're talking about. And so I think, could we get 5 years of relative, by college football terms, peace? I think so. But I certainly don't think hey, we're at a stasis point and everything's going to be fine. I mean, all you have to do is look at what's going on with the House settlement and the push for employee status or collective bargaining and all that. There's just too many moving parts in this sport to say it's all going to stay status quo. And frankly, guys, I think one of the interesting takeaways from what the ACC is trying to do in this settlement could be that it becomes a framework for what other leagues want to copy down the road, because as much as it's, the ACC or the Big 12 on the chopping block now, eventually Alabama is going to say, why are we giving Vanderbilt the same thing that we're getting? Ohio State's going to say, why are we giving Northwestern the same thing that we're getting? So I think these conversations will shift, but we're going to see these same conversations, some variation of them down the road too.
I'm interested. Let me just follow up with that, because we've talked about similar things here, and we've had a lot of callers say the same thing that you just said. Is there anybody out there, or maybe the commissioner is going to be responsible for when the teams like the Alabamas, Kentuckys, the Florida States, the Texases, the Michigans, Ohio State start to say those things, can also stand up and say, you still got to have a league, though. We can't all have only powerhouses to form a league.
Yeah.
Greg has one of my favorite quotes referencing college football that I have never thought of and I would never have said. Every league needs bottom feeders. So to sit there and say,
somebody's got to lose the game.
Exactly. Yeah. To say, hey, Vanderbilt, you're out. You lose too much. Or Missouri, you're not winning. You're out. Or whoever that, Virginia, you're out. You're not just going to have 7 undefeated teams in a league every year. Who's going to be responsible for that when these teams start trying to pull those shenanigans?
No, I think this is a great question. And it is, I was just talking to some folks. The AFCA Coaches Convention was here in Charlotte a few weeks back, and I was talking to a bunch of folks there. And one of them was telling me that they're sitting in one of these meetings with a couple of lawyers and a higher up from the SEC, and they're trying to talk their way through House settlement and transfer portal and NIL and all the stuff that's going on. And one of the guys who was there had previously worked in the NFL, and he said to the group of college administrators that are in there and coaches, the difference between the NFL is they have a big, strong, they're eager to have strong central leadership, and college sports don't do well with authority. And that's the problem. We are in an industry that is very much, the ethos is every man for themselves. And frankly, I would argue the SEC has done the best job of avoiding that. The SEC as a collective, I think, is appreciated more than anywhere else in the country. But the bottom line is, until there is some sort of strong centralized leadership within the sport, I don't know how you tell Alabama that that Vanderbilt really matters to them. There's too many dollars involved in this conversation, and everybody's out for themselves.
You just hope some common sense prevails at some point.
Do you feel pretty good about Jim Phillips's direction? And one other thing that he illustrated that I don't dislike, I think the ACC's approach to the postseason, like he discussed, hey, make it a 3-team tournament at the end. I think that's a sign of things to come. I think that's what's coming in the future, where the SEC has their own tournament to crown a champion, the ACC has their own, the Big Ten has their own, and then you do the playoff accordingly after the fact. I think that's where we're going to head eventually. I just don't know how long till we get there. But has there been any traction with that, proposal that he made publicly a couple weeks back?
Yeah, and this sort of stems from some of the conversations that the ACC was having with ESPN about how do we add value and maximize premier matchups, and that's one of the things is can we make the championship game mean more, have more value? But look, we heard what Lane Kiffin said about playing potentially in an SEC championship game as a negative. That's in an expanded playoff era. I think every conference needs to be looking at what do we want this championship game to look like, because frankly, we ended up in 2 spots this past year, and I would say the 12-team playoff was miraculously successful. by almost any metric. But the championship games went into two tiers. One, you had something like the ACC where there were huge stakes, but SMU was potentially going to miss out on the playoff by playing in a championship game. So you don't want that. On the other hand, you have like Texas and Georgia where like they're both making the playoff. Like there wasn't huge stakes for this game other than to say you're the SEC champion. And so I think what you want is a way that the championship games have stakes, that they do matter, that people want to tune in and watch, but they're not punitive for teams who have played great football all season to miss out on something that would be an even bigger prize down the line. That's a very delicate needle to thread. And I think what you heard from Jim Phillips was a lot of sort of extemporaneous discussions of like, what if we could do this or that? And it's hypotheticals. I don't know how close any of that is to actually happening, but I think every conference should be talking about like, what do we want this to look like in the future?
What was the response from some of the things Phillips threw out about potential ACC championship game changes? Like, I mean, the 1 and 2s getting a bye essentially from your championship game sounds asinine, but I kind of think I know where he's going, but it's like, you can't call that a championship game anymore.
Yeah, no, that's it would definitely be a bit of a misnomer. I talked to a number of administrators, coaches, and ADs shortly after that, and almost all of them were flummoxed by the conversation. Like, what now? I don't think that a lot of that had been workshopped with the folks inside the league. So I don't know that it went over great, but again, I don't think he intended it to be like, this is a thing we're about to do. It was a lot of sort of brainstorming, a bunch of people throwing ideas against the wall to see if any of them had real merit. And I don't know if he might go back and say, I kind of wish I had kept that in house. But again, I don't think I think you were smart to be thinking outside the box now, because it is a time and place in college football in which outside the box thinking needs to occur. And, you know, whatever that game is, if you're not going to call it a championship game, if it's a thing that brings in money for the league and people like watching it, that's great. What you don't want to do is get to a point where those games basically become the Pro Bowl that nobody wants to go to because it means nothing and it can cost you money. So I think it's smart to be thinking outside the box. Saying it publicly at that time, I don't know if that was the greatest outcome.
Absolutely. David, you're always great, man. Thanks for the time. We appreciate it. We'll catch up soon.
No problem. Talking to you guys.
There you go. David Hale at a David Hale joint on Twitter. His article up on ESPN.com right now on the ACC's new TV deal, what that means moving forward. And we'll continue discussing it when we come back, as well as something else that may be coming to college football. First, GMAC, tell our listeners about Polar Bear Services.
Well, I've had a great experience every single time I've shopped with Polar Bear Services. Really appreciate Weston and the guys and their professionalism. They've come out and they've helped me with a lot of different things. That's what I like most about their services, that I just call them and I ask them, hey, can you do this? Yeah, more often than not, they can, because of all the different things that they've added to their arsenal to be able to help you, the homeowner. They've added electrical, they've added plumbing, which is big time. And they've, of course, been a specialized heating and air specialist for a very long time. They are trained dealer. They do an amazing job of making sure everything is running smoothly, especially around this time of flu season. Get everything clean, like the duct cleaning, all that stuff. They have different ways of making sure that your home is safe and clean during this flu season. So remember, if you have a problem with electrical, plumbing, heater, air, just pick up the phone and call the Bear. It's 205-497-BEAR. That's 497-BEAR.
All right, when we come back, something else that you may or may not like that's coming to college football right after this on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Andy Staples joined us a little bit earlier. If you missed that podcast right here at 8:22 a.m. Friday, January 31st, you can go to jocksfm.com, Apple Podcast, Spotify, wherever you get yours. It's even on the app. Go to the app and you can check that out. Here you go, Greg. You guys are going to the circus this weekend, right?
We are.
It's more Cirque du Soleil now than
Yeah.
actual circus.
No, it's not really. It's not your traditional.
You're not getting a
circus.
lion fighter.
No, there's no one in the cage with the lion. There's no elephants. There's no animals. It's really just Cirque du Soleil.
Does the train still come to town and drop everybody off?
I can't speak to that, but the trapezi, they have that. A lot of music, a lot of singing. But yeah, we'll be going tomorrow.
Maybe it's just trap eye.
No, that's what you have in your shoulders.
Trapeze.
When you do shrugs, that's what you're working, is your trap eye.
Tried to do a forward roll dunk
Like a somersault?
In the home dunk contest with the 7-year-old the other night.
On a little tyke?
On our little Nerf goal. He wanted to have a slam dunk contest. I tried to get cute on the hardwood. It's not going well.
No, I don't think that'd be wise.
Directly on the left shoulder.
You asked for that.
And it feels like I just had the first day of 2 days yesterday.
You asked for that.
I did. It's not good. My wife was like, can't believe you tried that. I was like, well, 6'3", I can go up there and just put it in. I had to give him a little something extra.
There you go.
Try to put him to shame.
We last night at basketball practice, we finished practice with, we did layup lines. All right, so standard. That's kind of how we finish. Most of the time, the kids love that. They get to shoot, they get to run, they get to dribble, they get to get a rebound. Like, they like the layup lines. But to make things a little unique last night, we told them to sauce it up a little bit. Like, give us a little action. Like, give us something off the dribble.
Did you do the dive for the ball out of bounds drills?
Yeah, we had a little bit of a war yesterday.
Save the ball drills? I think it's incredible that you guys practice. What's it, 6U? You're practicing?
Yeah.
Yeah, our practices are 20 minutes before the game.
Well, explains a lot.
You ain't seen us play.
But no, that some of the creativity, I guess is the correct word for it, last night on the hardwood was
like
impressive.
a layup contest?
No, it was basically you get to basically swag out your dribble.
Now we see what kind of team you're running.
No, I said we're going to have some fun at the end of practice.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think one of the kids tried to do the gritty and dribble at the same time. Which, by the way, I would encourage anyone to try because it looked interesting.
Next time you come in here on a Monday and talk about how y'all lost, now we know.
Okay, yeah.
First of all, we're Mountain Brook basketball team. I'm not sure we have a real high ceiling.
There was a moment where a guy who's currently at Sanford had that thing rolling.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not sure if the portal is working the same way as it did, but I mean,
I don't know if it is either. All I know is that, yes, Mountain Brook's still excellent at basketball, but
6U, it's a new standard.
I'm not sure I'm so worried about where we're at from a kindergarten standpoint.
Well, you can see where I'm worried about.
We got 10, 11 years to figure it out.
Really gritty and dribble.
I'm not about to ask some parents to bring their kids on a weeknight to let kids do layups. Like, we'll do that for the game. We'll figure it out. We got plenty of time to have basketball practice.
That's cool.
We're good. We're fine. But Andy Staples did say on the show that there's something new coming to college football that he does not think the administrators really want. Yet it sounds like it's becoming more and more evident that private equity is going to inch its way into college football. Something that might need to inch its way into your home if you've been trying to have dunk contests in your house is new flooring. And Shinar Flooring can help you with that, GMAC.
Yeah, it sounds like you need to actually have your hardwoods replaced with carpet. Shinar Flooring can accommodate you. They also will replace your carpets with hardwoods, whatever you choose to do. No, the owner, did an amazing job of putting together a team that will have great respect for your home, that will make sure that it's built on a foundation of trust and integrity. When you're working with a contractor like Shinari Flooring, you know the job is going to get done right. Whether you're replacing the old carpet, upgrading a hardwood, whatever the circumstances are, they're going to show up on time, they're going to respect your home, and they're going to get the job done. So when it's time for new flooring, ask yourself, call who? Call Foo. Call them direct at 205-518-6423, and you can see all the new styles for 2025 at shinarflooring.com.
All right, so private equity in the Big Ten. Apparently, according to Sportico, the Big Ten is courting investment companies, allowing private equity firms to bid on certain portions of their league. Sportico reads, the Big Ten Conference is taking preliminary bids from private equity firms despite past comments from Tony Petitti questioning the upside involving institutional capital in college sports. According to multiple people familiar with the situation, the conference previously retained investment bank Evercore, which solicited a first round of indicative offers from PE firms. I do not believe that's Public Enemy. Just before a key deadline in the House versus NCAA antitrust lawsuit that could fundamentally change the economics of intercollegiate athletics. Quote, to better support its 18-member institutions, the conference is evaluating potential strategic partnerships in order to enhance the conference's event, sponsorship, and other ancillary business endeavors. A Big Ten spokesperson told Sportico in an email. Sounds like they got caught. Now they're trying to admit that they were actually doing some of these things. While declining to provide additional details, a representative from Evercore did not respond to a request for comment. I think what's different about this, Greg, and some of the other things that we've talked about is this is a league doing this.
Yeah.
This is not Florida State looking to get out of the ACC. And, oh, by the way, we need $500 million as an exit fee. Can you help? We'll give you 10% of our program or whatever. This is an actual league going out and shopping what people would say. Well, as you just heard there, licensing of events, event space, where to hold events, how to market events, what events would then be named. That's what I would imagine first and foremost. And I mean, you're going to have the Royal Buick GMC Big Ten East. You're going to have the, I don't know, Gusty Goulas Big Ten Media Days. It's everything's going to have a name on it if this has actually gone in, because the private equity firm is going to look at it and say, where can we add dollars? And the answer at that board of trustees table is going to be everywhere possible. And so that's the direction I would imagine that they go.
Yeah. I think that's all fair. I think there's also other ways to envision private equity involvement. I think people see it through one lens. Oh, you sell 20% of your business to so-and-so for X amount of whatever the valuation is. Let's say for simple math, it's $1 billion, what's worth. Hey, we'd like to buy 20%. Cool. Here's $200 million. And then you get all the benefits of that 20% chunk. So if their television deal every year is $100 million, you get 20 million of that 100 million. That's not really how these private equity groups are trying to work. A lot of them are trying to go in and loan money. Several are just loaning money for a very short period of time, and they are going to recoup the cash hand over fist at 10%, 12%. I mean, it's brutal because there's a lot of money that needs to be forwarded up front to kind of jumpstart this process of rev share. So they're looking at it from that angle. There's also a specific part of the Big Ten, the SEC. Those brands are worth something. Like the Big Ten is worth something. The SEC is worth something. But right now, what can the SEC monetize with their name? Like there's not much that can be monetized off that. Like the programs underneath them get monetized, right? But
right.
What does the SEC do to create its own revenue that it can also add to its pool to distribute to its 16-member institutions? I think there's angles there too. So there's a lot. There's a lot that can be done. And I think one of the better examples is what happened with the Major League Baseball Players Association. Major League Baseball Players Association, they had really no business. They were just a collection of players. Well, then they became a player. They did the licensing arm on behalf of the players and other things. So the MLBPA became a big business when it was really just a entity that was a 501c3, and it was just kind of there and existed just for the sake of existing so you could have collaborative work. Then it became a business. So I think there's ways of taking the SEC from being a nonprofit distribution arm to a business. And I'm sure the Big Ten looks at it the same way. It's just, how do they get there? And what's the best way to monetize?
It's a lot. And I imagine that most people who hear this would not be a fan of it. 800-239-9569. You can tweet in at Mac and Cube, text in 205-834-9450. Do you like this? Do you hate this? I will say I'm almost fully in line with Andy Staples. I think this is we have talked time and time and time again about collegiate administrators not thinking about the underbelly of making massive decisions, whether it is the 4-game redshirt rule, whether it's the portal, whether it's NIL, and then all of a sudden something other comes up and it's like, well, we didn't think about that. We didn't think about this part. I think that there could be a massive portion of this that's not being thought through well enough that is going to lead to what Andy Staples said, and that is this is going to become a line sheet on a piece of paper. And it's not about getting your job done. It's not about winning, losing. It's not about, having a good program who does things the right way or gets people ready for life and whatnot. It's just good. Are you making money? Yes, no. Does your position help us make money? Are we above quota? Yes. Okay. You're good. You can stay. No, you're fired. You're out. We'll put somebody new in there, or we'll just get rid of your position altogether. And that's the part of it that I wouldn't like. I understand a lot of it's going there, but maybe it's just my blinders and old school football ways that just see a lot more problems than I do solution with this coming to college football.
I personally don't see as many problems with it. I think it's a necessary evil if we want to maintain the status quo and you want the players to have the same experience and you want to have all the things that you've had for a very, very long time, this is likely going to have to go down. I think for a long time, college sports has been a little archaic in its model. And I do think that at some point, I would love for college sports to exist forever the way it existed when we played. Like,
it's not coming back. No.
I would love that. I loved when I played. But now it's too much business. It's too much opportunity. It's too much upside potentially. So I think it's when you have upside like that, and the NFL in many ways is tapped out, at least in the near term. NFL is Microsoft. It's steady. It is the top performer and will be forever. It's not going anywhere. But I do think there's major upside in college football with the advent of the playoff and the growth potential of the sport. So I think that's very attractive to a lot of people. And it's a matter of whether or not it goes down. I don't know the answer to that, and how soon it goes down. I don't know, but I know that there's going to be private equity sharks circling. We know that.
Yes.
Why wouldn't they be? It's just about whether or not it makes sense for the SEC or the Big Ten or these other entities. So I think it's a matter of time. I think it'll probably happen at some point in the near future. And I think it's unavoidable if we want college football to continue doing what it's always done. And that's getting a bunch of players and a bunch of good quality products and a bunch of quality brands on the field and playing against each other.
I want the listener feedback. 800-239-9569. Text in 205-834-9450. Tweet in @Mac and Cube. Do you want private equity in college football? Do you think it's good for private equity to move into college football? But I want to ask you a question on the other side, and that is, could there be an opening to retroactively make a massive move for a different part of college football? I'll explain what that is and what that means after I tell you about your CBD store. If you're looking for a better night's sleep, your CBD store has answers. If you are maybe a little too gluttonous over the holidays, trying to get some of the weight off, the Trim by SunMed is on the shelves now at the largest brick and mortar CBD retailer in the world. Appetite suppressant that can help you get some of the pounds off at your CBD store. First company to have USDA certified organic oil supplements. So if it's skincare, if it's gut health for you or your pet, your CBD store can help. They want to help your daily routine be better. So just go visit one of their 3 locations. Highway 280 by Bailey Brothers, 150 by the Cage in Cleaver, Trussville just off 459, your CBD store where good health hits home. Is there room for a portion of college football specifically to do something different? I'll ask that question next on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Talking private equity in college football, 800-239-9569. You want to get in, you can tweet in at Mac and Cube. Watch the show live every day on YouTube. Just search Jocks945. If private equity is making its way in, and we hear a story from Sportico that the Big Ten is actually taking bids. Now, CBS reported, remember, back in June, that the Big 12 was considering an $800 million to $1 billion investment from CVC Capital Partners in exchange for a 15 to 20% stake in the entire conference. So it feels like it's here. It feels like it's near. But my question to you, Greg, is...
But that's one of the most intriguing things, though, is like Big 12 is not... The Big 12 is a moniker. It's a name. It's not really a business. Like there is possibility of a business under that entity. I think that's where things could shift here.
Yeah.
It's like the SEC is a remarkable business, but it doesn't operate like a business right now. It operates as a nonprofit, which is great. That is beneficial to everybody, but there might be more in the tank for the SEC, the Big Ten, and others like that we haven't even thought about exploring just yet.
I definitely think there's more at stake for the schools. The conferences is a very different discussion. And I'm sure we could find some of those. They just don't seem as obvious as they would be for the individual schools. So I'll ask you this question, if it's coming and if it happens. Let's just say that the top 20% of college football goes this direction, and that helps them further extend from the majority of college football.
Yeah.
Is there room for the rest of college football to hit the reset button? Like you said, when you and I played, and it was different than when you played than when I played, and it's obviously completely different now. But is there room for the rest of college football? Maybe you group FCS into this. Maybe you take the majority of what we would now reference as the G5 or did reference as the G5 and lump them into this. The ones that could not then keep up to reset and do it in a similar fashion to what it was, obviously with some newer age rules. Maybe put a commissioner in place, have their own playoff, go back to scholarships, no collectives, real NIL only. How you police that, I'm not real sure. Could that help the support? Could that help the interest? And is there room for that group to potentially do that?
Yeah. I mean, I think there's room. Will it happen? I don't know that for sure, but I think there's absolutely room for that. Would you not agree?
I do. I don't know exactly what the blueprint would look like, but I just think on the surface that if a lot of people heard, okay, Southern Miss, Samford, UAB, Alabama A&M, that like it's going back to a similar model as to like you get your school paid for.
Yeah.
You get some cost of attendance. If you go get a deal out there with Crocker Moving Services, great, good for you. You've got that. But we're not going to do the pretend NIL anymore. We're not having collectives, and you're not going to hit the portal 7 times a year. And that's essentially kind of the way it's going to be, with a little bit of an old school feel, a little bit of a retro feel on what it once was. Develop your own playoff, and then you go. Because I don't think that a lot of those schools are getting, I mean, yes, we're at 12 teams now. It's great. Arizona State was in. It was awesome. SMU was in. But the schools we're talking about, let's think about the reality of the majority of them getting in. Still slim to none.
Very slim.
So you put your postseason together, which is going to make for good TV, compelling TV. And I think a lot of fans, a lot of people out there would say, I'm just going to pay attention to that just because they're doing it the way that I feel like it should be done.
Yeah.
Now, is that enough to support you and offer real sustainability? I don't know the answer to that question.
No, I'm not sure you would. I'm not sure it's possible to know the answer to that question. But at the same time, I mean, it's a starting point. It's an interesting starting point, interesting jumping off point to see will that. I mean, I do think there's a lot of people that do find it appealing to avoid this. I think this is more of a turnoff for some, but I also think if you turn a blind eye to it, it's fine too. Like, I'm not sure this has to have a huge impact on like how you consume the sport. It's purely a method of doing a little bit more business and creating more revenue streams that have never even been thought to be open at this point. Like, that's all it is. I don't think it's everyone. Like, I feel like people say the word private equity. It's like a salacious word to say as it relates to college sports. I don't think it is. I think it's more, hey, cost of doing business has gotten more expensive. We just have to explore new ways of creating revenue.
Yep.
Like, guess what? I think any business. I mean, Microsoft, which is the gold standard in some ways in the last 25 years of doing business, like they have to create new revenue streams. Like now Office costs $99 a year or whatever it is. So in addition to their traditional model of selling operating systems, they now have a way of monetizing your commitment to Microsoft and creating cloud database. Like that's the next endeavor. And then they got, all these other methods. So if you stay put forever and you become a dinosaur, then you'll get passed. Like you have to create new streams of revenue. And I feel like these conferences are capable of doing that.
Well, we all thought that the portal and NIL and where it was all heading to guys paying for 5-6 different schools, that was going to ruin viewership anyway, right? And it was just higher than it's been in a long time. Now, I'm not pointing to just certain playoff games, but in its totality, the ratings didn't suffer at all. In a lot of ways, they were better. So I don't even know if some of the things that we've looked at here recently that we thought were going to be detrimental to viewership have even gone that way, because they really haven't gone that way. So, but I do wonder moving forward if there are different avenues that different leagues, different levels of football can take to sort of draw people back in. At the end of the day, you still want to watch your team, number one, and you want to watch compelling football, number two. Usually compelling football is going to mean best players. That's a big part of it.
Yeah.
Not just competitive games, because we know we could go to different levels of football and probably get more competitive games on a weekly, annual basis, and people aren't gravitating to that. You want to see good players. So you're going to have those, and sometimes people don't know where all the best players are that are not in the SEC, and then marketing becomes a part of that. Can that be something that helps take them a little bit further? So I do think there's a lot to it, but going to be interesting to see kind of where it goes and what could be next for college sports. All right, we'll get to a break, come back, and a couple of the other things that we started the show off with, including Hugh Freeze, including Auburn, we'll get back to next. Before we do that, GMAC, do tell our listeners about Crocker Moving Services.
Well, they're a local company owned by an Iraq War veteran, Eric Crocker. Crocker believes in hiring movers you can trust to complete full background checks and run drug tests on every single employee. These are good guys. And you can trust them in your home. They did your whole home, packed up and moved your company headquarters, moved across the country, or you just want them to come rearrange your living room. These guys got you covered. They also do deliveries for furnitures that you purchase and need to get to your home. So call or visit them online today for a free quote. The website is crockermovingservices.com. That's crockermovingservices.com. Support your veterans by choosing Crocker Moving Services for your next move.
We did do a little bit of a reset on Alabama football yesterday. We'll begin to do something a little bit similar with Auburn football when we come back next on Mac and Cube in the morning. 8:51, Friday, January 31st. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Hour number 3, we get to our Super Sofa game of the week, bad box score of the day, and conspiracy theories. At least one. Maybe others that pop up. But we wanted to talk a little bit Auburn today since we talked Alabama yesterday. You heard Andy Staples earlier in the show if you didn't get the podcast on the Jocks app or online, jocksfm.com. He has Auburn at, what did he say, 11? In his early top 25? Yeah. I'm not sure people have, in the majority, have Auburn as that high of a standing.
I think people feel pretty good about him, though.
Going into this season.
For the most part. I wouldn't say that the top 11 feels aggressive.
Yeah, I don't think 11 for me.
Wow, hater.
No, just not 11. We heard Hugh Freeze earlier on the show discussing his new quarterbacks coming in, but there are new transfer wide receivers coming to the Plains as well. At the Senior Bowl, Coach Freeze gave his thoughts on those.
Yeah, I think you look at seeing on his track record at this level, the things that you can do with him, I think make us very versatile. When you combine him with Jackson, I think you've got some really good options there, and he can run. And I think you got now two of the faster guys I've ever coached, truthfully, and he and Malcolm, and Eric's really smooth and he loves to work, and Horatio's got great ball skills, and I don't know yet about his top end speed, but watching him work out with the team, with Coach Dom, love his length, love his physicality, and I think we've added 2 really good guys to a very talented room already. Perry's looked good also, coming back. I think he's got a new renewed hunger.
So there you go, Greg. Some of the weapons for Andy also dropped on the show today. Well, Jackson Arnold has guys he's got to beat out if he's going to be Auburn's starting quarterback. But those are some of the weapons that whoever the Auburn quarterback is this year are going to have, a couple of which I know you're a big fan of.
I would think that he's probably not going to have to beat anybody out.
I have said before, I'll say it again. I think that there's some work there to be done. So
I don't disagree, but I think it's probably going to be his show.
Well, from him and also from the coaching staff. I don't want people to think that I'm just putting that on Jackson Arnold. He needs to be coached into this system, and that's going to be a big part of it.
Don't disagree. Still think if I had to bet my bottom dollar, he'll be the starting quarterback this year. I'm not saying it's already been awarded, but I have a very difficult time assuming anyone's going to be able to close that gap.
I think your point's fair, and
there are factors in place at that place that other people's opinion gets valued.
No.
So, and I think that's all right.
Nobody was.
I think that's okay. I don't think that's uncommon, by the way. So I think it's going to be very important for when everybody gets together. I think it'll be him, and I think that's a good thing. I think to have solidarity and everyone, hey, this is our guy. Follow him throughout the spring, throughout the summer, throughout fall camp. That is beneficial to the program. So people that are interpreting that as something negative, I disagree. I think it's good to have 100% back this guy, especially you guys lacking confidence. Back this guy. This is our guy. See it through.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Okay.
I'm hitching my wagon. Let's go. You know what I mean? That's the best way to do it, I think.
And I don't think anybody disagrees that that's who they believe it's going to be or want it to be. Jackson Arnold, I do think has the best set of skills with the experience to sort of be that guy. However, I just think that there's a little bit of work to be done. The rest of this team and kind of the standing right now, like where do you view Auburn? Let's start in the SEC first. Is it mid? Is it above middle of the pack? Like, where is Auburn for you? And there's still going to be changes to the roster, but where do you view this team right now in the league?
Top 5.
Okay. Do you believe?
Top
do you
6?
Agree with that?
Yeah. Who are you taking next year, Auburn or Florida? Kind of a toss-up to me. I feel like Florida had a lot of momentum down the stretch, and Auburn didn't.
They did. There's one position that would lean me heavily to one side there.
Correct, but
same thing with South Carolina.
I understand that, but I think a sophomore slump is not out of the realm of possibility. And
Taking Vandy or Auburn?
I'm going to take Auburn there. Slight. By 14.
Players or points?
Vandy's back to earth next year.
Oh, sounds like we got a lot more to talk about next hour. Where do you view Auburn in the Southeastern Conference this year? Standing, ranking, top 3, top 5, top 10? Some of the answers on the show might surprise you. 800-239-9569. You want to get in, tweet in at Mac and Cube. Talking a little bit Auburn football right here at 9 a.m. Hour number 3 underway. Friday, January 31st on Jocks 94.5. Listen online, jocksfm.com. The app is in your app store or watch live on YouTube. Just search Jocks 945.
Bill Smith Buick GMC is the GMC Dealer of the Year. It's awesome to know that you can go up there, take a peek, look on the lot, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. The deals that they have are off the charts good. There's a reason why they sell more GMCs than anyone in the Southeast, and there's a reason why 75% of their business is repeat customers. I'm one of those repeat customers. I've bought 3 different vehicles from Bill Smith. I'll buy my 4th from them at some point in the future as well. It's just that good. You can't beat it, and you'll understand what I mean when you go and check out the GMC Yukon. It's a Denali XL. They're getting it to you for $86,000. That is $10,000 plus off the sticker. It's It's a deal like that is amazing. You just won't find anywhere else. That's why you're costing yourself money if you shop anywhere other than Bill Smith. So take the short drive to Coleman. You'd be glad you did. You can also shop online, have it delivered right to your driveway at Bill Smith Buick, GMC.com.
All right, so you say Auburn top 3 in the SEC currently?
I said top 5.
In the SEC currently?
Yes.
Let's remove the obvious candidates here. Texas is going to be in front.
Okay.
Georgia is going to be in front.
How do we know that? I'm being honest when I say that. Right now.
Which one, Texas or Georgia?
Hang on. You have to pick Georgia or Auburn at Auburn next year. Who are you taking? And is it a slam dunk?
For me, yes, it is. I haven't seen Jackson Arnold in this offense.
Fair.
I have seen Jackson Arnold struggle to throw the football. Not certain throws, to let go of the football on certain things.
A lot of guys
routes.
gone off that roster.
The Georgia roster?
Yeah.
But there's guys gone from the Auburn roster,
True.
specifically their best player. So,
A running back?
correct. Who was a better player on the team last year?
Couple on
DeAndre Lambert-Smith?
couple
Okay,
on
well, he's
defense
also
pretty
gone,
good. Couple on defense, pretty good.
but not better than those.
Good players.
I'll take right now Georgia.
Is the gap wide?
It has maybe gotten a little bit closer, but we're also talking about a team that found ways to lose game versus a team that has found ways to win games, not just in the last year, but in multiple years. So there's a part of the DNA that also needs to change, not just the roster. That has to become something that is, and there's some coaching elements, there's some decision-making elements that all have to get better. I think it's safe to say if we asked 99% of people in America, even those that don't watch college football, who would you rank higher in the preseason right now, Georgia or Auburn? It's going to be Georgia.
I would rank Georgia higher. I just don't think the gap is as wide as it's been.
Okay. Texas, Auburn.
Texas.
All right. So
Texas, the team to beat.
2. Georgia. Alabama, Auburn.
Bama.
Okay. That's 3. Ole Miss, Auburn.
Auburn.
You love their quarterback.
Auburn.
Florida.
Ole Miss lost so much off defense, man. Like, and no one wants to acknowledge that. No one wants to account for
fully
it.
acknowledge it. I know that they have replenished some and still have a lot of talent.
They're
Who
good.
has a more talented roster right now, Ole Miss or Auburn? Yeah.
Toss up.
Texas A&M or Auburn?
Toss up.
LSU or Auburn?
LSU.
Tennessee or Auburn?
Toss up. Tennessee lost a lot, dude.
I'm interested to
They
hear.
lost their 2 best players.
But I'm interested to hear where. Well, a lot of people would disagree with that. I'm interested to hear
Who do
from
people
you
think their best player?
where the strengths are returning with this Auburn football team.
Receiver.
Okay.
I think they're going to be better on the offensive line. Can't be worse.
Can't be worse, and they were a little better this year.
And
But
the running back will be fine. I'm not worried about it. Not going to be as good as Jarquez, but they're going to be
well, it
fine.
didn't matter because they didn't give him the ball anyway. So, but he was still a really good player.
Okay.
So great, you had him, you didn't use him. So what?
They be better.
You might have a better running back next year. It's still not going to give him the ball.
Are they
So,
better at quarterback? Push.
should be.
Should
And
be.
even though there are no should haves in football, I will allow that one.
Just the
for this
just the
conversation.
mobility angle of it.
Mobility.
Even if it's just quarterback run, they're going to be better at quarterback. Probably from a run standpoint. I don't know if they'll be as experienced, and there might be just as many turnovers there was this year. That's a possibility. I don't know, but I do think that Jackson Arnold's mobility makes him difficult. To
I will say this. I think you have a better room because I think if you have to, and for whatever reason, go to Ashton Daniels, you still might be in better shape. And he turned it over a lot last year too, but I think a lot of that was circumstance and pieces and parts.
Yeah.
I think he's a pretty good fit for what Hugh wants to do.
Same page.
All right. So receiver, yes, top to bottom. Even though you're losing Smith and a little bit of Robert Lewis with Simmons, Singleton, Coleman, Fields, you should be better. Perry Thompson should be better across the board. Yes.
Okay. So feel pretty good about that. Defensively, secondary, not much drop off there. If any, probably better.
Okay.
I think you had a couple good pieces at safety. I don't feel like they were outrageous. Like, are you concerned about the losses on defense?
No, but I think maybe not all from the production standpoint. You'll miss Jared Thompson.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Safety.
Not from just making plays, but just like who he was.
A solid player. Not
how
outrageous.
good was the rest? Honestly, I mean, just
solid. Everyone on defense was rock solid. If they can be comparable to last year,
there was one that for most of the year wasn't. That just didn't want to get people to the ground.
Okay, well, everyone that wasn't a rotational safety was rock solid. Like, I mean, we're kind of splitting the hairs. Like, I think they're going to be fine on defense. I think they're going to be solid on defense. I don't think they're going to be elite. I don't think Ole Miss can be elite on defense.
You feel good about Keldrick Falk.
Yeah.
You feel good about Crawford. He did some things later in the year. DeMarcus Riddick, you feel really good about.
Very good about.
So up front, I think the interior depth, I might have some concerns on still.
I think they're pretty good at D tackle.
Okay, they're okay.
Yeah, they're fine. They're not a liability.
Also, no game records, but
no,
not many people in college football seem to have that right now. So,
yep.
We'll continue the practice then.
Right.
Missouri or Auburn?
Auburn.
South Carolina or Auburn?
Now, this is one that will be very difficult for people. South Carolina is getting a lot of hype, and there are a lot of pieces that are gone off that team. I think it's
fair.
I think it's a toss-up, but I think most people.
I think the question is: do you want a couple of really potential high-end pieces, or do you want more B+ pieces?
Well, in today's day and age of college football, I would much rather have rock solid, steady, consistent production.
Okay.
As opposed to flash moments. Dude, South Carolina lost. Everyone wants to talk about Lenore Sellers, second-year player. He might be great next year. I hope he is. That'd be awesome. I'm wanting that for him. Everyone wants to talk about Dylan Stewart at the end of the line of scrimmage. Amazing. What they are forgetting is Kyle Kennard, who was opposite. They're forgetting Rocket Sanders, who is steady as the day is long. I think an underwhelming receiver core. You're also missing Josh Simon, who's pound for pound probably their best player, tight end. So I think that's part of. I think South Carolina next year takes a step back in the win column. They won a couple games, very close margins, ball bounced their way a couple times. I think they could take a step back. They could be next year's Missouri, where everybody's super high on them in the preseason, and then they're a little bit underwhelming.
Those three in the middle are going to be tough to replace. Boogie Huntley, Tonka Hemingway, TJ Sanders.
How about the three linebackers?
You don't have those guys.
How about the three linebackers?
Yeah.
How about
Demetrius Knight was awesome. Debo was really good.
How about the two safeties?
Even Warrior's back. Or did he enter the draft? I don't think even Warrior entered the draft. He may have.
The other two. They played three.
It's going to be different back there. I get it. But you got your corners back, and maybe that's enough to sort of help offset it. I think the back end could still be strong. And if you have one elite pass rusher up front, you could be okay. Goodwine played a pretty good bit last year. I think he could help up front. He's not going to be the same as what they had. So we'll see. I get it, though. But listen, Mazio Bennett, if he's healthy early on, he gives you a pretty solid slot option. And I think the offensive line will be better. I mean, you played two freshmen all of the year, and you had another freshman that rotated in and out. So that group should be actually pretty good. And maybe even from a depth perspective, be better than a lot of other people have. So I'm with you. There are a lot of question marks there. I agree with that.
It's not that they won't be good. It's just if your expectations playoff or bust.
Here's a fun one for you.
Be mindful of that.
Here's a fun one for you.
Listening.
Right now, ranking in the league, Oklahoma or Auburn? Who's higher?
Auburn. How can it be Oklahoma? Seriously.
John Mateer is next Cam Newton.
How many pieces are gone on defense?
You do have Deion Burks back.
He's a receiver. As to defense, is he
going
to double his corner?
He's our next Travis Hunter. He's a Travis Hunter comp. No, the defense will not be the same. It will not. It will not be close to what it was last year. Well, I'm not going to say it's not going to be close, but it's you know what? I'm going to say it's not going to be close. Because there will be the middle will be fine because you played a lot of youngsters there. Now, no Don Williams, that'll be different, but like Jaden Jackson was great. David Stone, solid, gave you good reps. So I think the middle of the defense will be okay. I think you still are going to have capable linebackers, but you're not going to have the guy. And we know Stutzman was that. He was that guy. And you're not going to have the guy at safety. So it's not going to nosedive, but it's not going to be what it was. So can the offense pick up enough of that slack? The offensive line problem shouldn't be as bad as last year. A lot of guys played. You get Burks back, and you have a capable quarterback. Running back, I think, will be okay. That's why I thought it was interesting. That's why I teed it up the way that it did. I think it's an interesting look at just – it almost comes down to what portal guys you have the most confidence in at that point. So you don't have – the only teams you're going to have above Auburn right now, LSU, Alabama, Georgia, Texas.
For sure. The only 4 that I'm going to have for sure above them right now.
Vanderbilt or Auburn?
Auburn.
Eli Stowers back. Diego Pavia back.
Here, like I think the top 4 are pretty clearly established this year. I think 5 through 8 is very up in the air. But I think there's a couple teams in that group that could cycle up and be all the way as high as 2. You know what I mean? Like Florida could cycle up and be the second best team in the league.
Ole Miss, similar.
Like if the quarterback pans out, Ole Miss has major upside. I don't know about South Carolina's upside right now. I don't know about Auburn's upside right now. I don't. But I think they're rock solid. I think I know when I watch those two teams, I'm getting at least 7 wins. At least. I know you can say, well, that doesn't seem like a lot. Dude, in the new version of the SEC, like 7 wins, a pretty solid year. Like I hate to say that, but it's the realities. I mean, we had teams that went, A&M, for example, won 8 last year. 8.
And they were in the running to win the league going into rivalry weekend.
Correct.
That's crazy to think about.
Correct. So like it's hard to win in this league now. So the age-old remember, Georgia won the SEC and was 10-2. 10-2.
But 9 wins, people call our show and say you should get your coach fired.
Should. I'm all about
maybe
coaches.
In 1992, but not now.
Uh-huh. That's where we're at right now. Georgia went 10-2, won the league. Georgia also had an 8 overtime game against Georgia Tech. They beat Kentucky 13-12. And to be honest with you, the Auburn game wasn't super comfortable. How many other uncomfortable games did Georgia have this year?
Not Texas. I mean, that was
not Texas.
Georgia
not
Tech. Did you say Georgia Tech?
Yeah, Georgia Tech 8 overtime game against Georgia Tech, and Kentucky they beat them 13-12. Then I also think the Tennessee game was comfortable. The first Texas game was comfortable. Those are 2 really good wins.
34-20, 28-10, 30-15, 41-31, 31-13.
41-31. Who was that against?
Mississippi State, actually.
Yeah, I remember Mississippi State put up like 300.
It was weird.
Weird game.
31-17, 59-21. I mean, yeah, that's 34-3, 48-3. Clemson was a blowout.
Total blowout.
And Alabama obviously lost, but yeah, and Ole Miss lost. But of the wins, the SEC championship game was uncomfortable.
For sure.
And as you stated, Georgia Tech and Kentucky were uncomfortable.
I said 3 more games that they won that were uncomfortable. So this is a 10-2 football team that had, or a 11-2 football team, including the SEC title game. 3 of those games could have easily been L's, but remove one of them. So 2. So Georgia was this close to being a 10-2 or an 8-4 football team.
And you beat 3 playoff teams.
Yeah.
You beat 3 teams that were in the playoffs.
Correct.
One of them twice.
Yes. So, and one of them at their place. So it's hard, man. It's freaking hard to win in this league nowadays. So I feel real confident in saying that all the aforementioned teams are going to win 7 games at least. I think a couple could rally up and win 9, maybe 10. I don't know. But you win 9 games in this version of the SEC, feel good about it, dude.
Yeah.
It's hard to do. Really hard to do.
It's wild to think about kind of where it is. Number one, when you begin to rank teams and look at who's going to be what, it really begins to paint a similar picture to what we talked about last year, but maybe even could be a step further. We'll discuss that part on the other side. Before we get to the other side, I'll tell you about Game Day Men's Health. If you're feeling on edge, if you're lacking sleep, if you just don't feel good, you feel worn down, Game Day Men's Health wants to try to help you. Could be the effects of low testosterone. This is what they want to do. You go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com right now. You sign up for a free consultation. That's right, no money, free consultation. And then you get a free PSA test, free testosterone test. They'll find out exactly where you are. A lot of different programs, how they can help you out, including weight loss programs. They want to get you in and let you know, hey, this is what we can do for you. And then you get to decide. You can save 10% on any of those services by mentioning Cube when you walk in the front door. Also, at Game Day Men's Health, minimal upfront cost for all those programs that they offer. Very different than other folks in town. So go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com right now. Sign up for that consultation. Go see the great people inside their office. Locker room environment, low stress. Not going to try to push you anything that you don't need. Holistic approach to health and wellness. GameDayMen'sHealth.com. Go sign up for the free consultation. Just take advantage of that today. Are we maybe raising the stakes on what we discussed going into last season in college football? We'll have that conversation right after this on Mac and Cube in the morning. Welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning, Friday, January 31st, 9:20 a.m. We went into last season, Greg, and had multiple conversations about how, man, there are more unknowns this year than ever. There are more things about this season that feel like I'm not sure. I don't know. Could be, might not be. Maybe it isn't. Maybe it is. And I feel like a lot of that held up during the course of the year. I feel like a lot of that ended up being, about what we thought it was going to be. And now we look back at it and say, okay, we thought that's what it was last year. A lot of us were accurate in that sentiment. Is that going to go even further this year? The unknowns, like you said, with just looking at SEC teams that could be 10-win teams, could be 6-win teams. When you're talking about Ole Miss, you're talking about South Carolina, you're talking about Auburn, you're talking about, I would maybe even throw LSU into that boat with a lot of the question marks that they have. Feel like they've solved a lot of those problems. Florida is one of those teams. We haven't even mentioned Kentucky yet. They got a quarterback coming in that's beat Alabama. I don't know if that's, we could even look at it that way.
How many years ago was that? 4?
Who cares? I know the last guy that transferred up from Incarnate Word did pretty good. So once again, that doesn't mean that it's just going to work. Texas A&M could get to 10, could win 5. Missouri, I think Missouri's a massive question mark right now.
Huge.
Arkansas,
Could be good,
Arkansas's got some talent coming back in certain places.
No, I think Arkansas is super dangerous. Especially that's one that Auburn needs to be real careful of.
Vandy's going to be dangerous.
Yeah, Vandy's always a little dangerous right now.
It's Blake Shapen at quarterback year 2 for Mississippi State. Maybe that begins, that's a tick up a little bit if the defense is capable, even just a little bit capable. They might be a different football team. So is this, I guess my question to you is, before I ask it, I'm going to get you to tell us about, you're already done with your reads, aren't you?
I'm a pro.
Sorry?
Well, there's one more.
He still has to do that one even though Steve's not with us?
It's on the log.
Okay. Well, you can tell our friends about Atlas.
We ride. Atlas Senior Living, ATLAS Senior Living. They do a great job. They are the community that I'd be leaning to. They're independent, assisted, and memory care communities all throughout the Southeast. They even have one right here in Birmingham with Monarch Grove at Greystone and Legacy Ridge at Trussville. Check out Atlas Senior Living. That's ATLAS seniorliving.com for more information.
Should have said polar bear because you have another one, and I would have been right. But
Ooh,
I doubted myself, and that's my fault. I'm not going to let that happen again. I'm going to regain my confidence in the reads for the rest of the show.
Maybe you should.
Will this carry over to other leagues? Will this carry over to all of college football going into this season? Just that the unknowns are going to be even more so this season than maybe they were going into last season.
Probably more this season. Last season was bad, though, from an unknown standpoint. I just feel like there are a lot of teams with high expectations that I am not confident in. It feels like there's 5.
Okay, let's go to the Big Ten. All right.
Well, hang on one second. There's 5. Last year's version of Missouri feels like there's like 5 that fall under that umbrella now.
Okay.
This year.
Yeah, I can see where you're heading with that. Big Ten, Oregon.
Feel good.
As good as last year? No.
No.
Indiana again?
No, you can have them.
Penn State, feel good about. We're not. Ohio State.
Not as good as last year.
There's some questions. I actually feel pretty good about Illinois. I'm not saying national championship or bust, but of having a good year. But like Iowa, Michigan, you would say, oh, could get to 9, could win 5, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. USC. I don't know if it's ever going to be real confidence with the current regime, but you're always going to feel like there is upside, but you're always going to be a little hesitant, correct? Is that fair?
Yes.
Nebraska?
I actually like SC this year.
Oh, boy. Nebraska, real upside, but also real risk. Would you agree?
I would say.
What are you doubting, the real upside or the real risk? Because I'll put everything on the table that there's real risk.
I would say real upside. To me, the biggest problem with Nebraska is that as soon as you trust them, they'd let you down.
Okay, well, the nation's going to tell you that there's real upside. So we'll go with it for a moment, but I agree with you. The risk is real. Big 12, Arizona State. Does it work? Sliding scale both ways, though. Yes. Iowa State. There's. I think they're going to be really good, but there's not mega.
I need
upside.
to look a little bit more at what they have coming back.
BYU.
Love them.
I actually feel better about BYU on the risk side of things. Now, do I feel like they have Ohio State or Oregon upside? Maybe not. But I doubt their risk more than I do a lot of these teams we've talked about.
Right. I would agree.
Colorado, not going to be the same. I don't think is there anybody else that we really need to mention in the Big 12? Kansas State, Kansas, Houston, no.
I'm trying to think. Kansas, I don't love. Kansas State should be better.
Kansas State will have a help. I mean, but 9-4.
Yeah.
Like you said, like it's how much better can you be in today's college football?
I know. It's true. I'm trying to think of like who else. I'm like racking my brain around the Big 12. Texas Tech's going to be pretty good.
Right. ACC.
What about TCU? You like TCU?
Nobody's talking about Josh Hoover. Nobody.
Nobody's talking about Josh Hoover. No one's talking about Texas Tech. I don't hate it.
SMU, close again. Downturn.
Slight down. Need to see what they have coming back on defense.
Clemson, we feel good about. Miami, a lot of reasons to feel good about. There are some reasons to question.
Like Miami, don't love.
Syracuse is not going to be a 10-win team again.
No.
Louisville get past 9. They're going to be dangerous. I think Georgia Tech will be dangerous, but I mean, they were 7-6 last year.
Yeah.
So if you're staying in that category, then yeah, sure.
I feel like Georgia Tech's one of those teams that's great as an underdog, average as the day is long as a favorite.
Anybody else in the ACC that we're missing on? Virginia Tech, Duke, Pitt, NC State. No.
What about your team, Cuse?
I thought my team was NC State.
How far down on Cuse?
I'm not super down on him. I think he did a great job last year. I think he got a quarterback that got hot and was good for the system, and we'll see if you can replicate that. I don't know. Belichick year 1 better than 6 and 7?
Right around. I kind of like Virginia Tech this year. I think we might have been a touch early on them this year or last year. And I think now this could be a year where they're a little bit more real. The expectations kind of removed. Last year they had big expectations with how they finished. And people kind of figured out the quarterback. I'm kind of hopeful that they can maybe return to some promise from a couple years ago.
Did Jaden Ott declare for the draft? Do we know?
Yes.
Because I'd like to give you Cal, but I feel like he was a pretty big part of it.
He gone.
So maybe not. I guess my point has been made, though, that where are the teams like Notre Dame? Do we just have the utmost confidence that they're going to be making a playoff run again? I can't really say that. I think the O-line's going to be really good. I think the backfield's going to be good. We saw Angeli in the Orange Bowl. Looks like he has a chance to be great. Receiver's going to be as good. Defense, probably not. I mean, you lose some major chunks of that defense. But a solid football team, sure. But I guess the point that we were trying to make, it feels like it's been made that there are a lot of teams that we could look at and say, oh, yeah, they could get to 10. They could be in the playoffs, but they could also win 6 or 7. Like, who are the teams that you don't say that about? Who are the teams that you say right now, oh, yeah, no, they're in the playoffs?
Well, after what we saw from Indiana last year, it's hard to like totally eliminate teams from the playoff conversation.
I'm talking about totally putting them in.
But it has a lot to do with schedule. Like that's something I'm going to be weighing a lot more heavily on this year. How many veterans? What does the schedule look like? I have never put as much stock into the schedule as I will this upcoming season. Because if you really look at what Indiana had to navigate through,
it's fair.
It was pretty obvious that they were probably going to be like an 8-4 team or like a 7-5 team, which is a pretty significant uptick in preseason expectations. Then you look at the veterans they had and the guys that won that many games with them at James Madison. Like hindsight looking at it, it's like, oh, well, obviously they're good, but you could kind of see the writing on the wall. Schedule strength will be very important going into the season.
I don't think there's any doubt. And I also think that you look at Notre Dame's schedule this year, it looks like a bit of a heavier lift. At Miami, A&M, Purdue, at Arkansas, Boise,
Notre Dame's going to be
State.
good. They got a lot of pieces back. I like whoever their quarterback's going to be, whether it's Angeli or CJ Carr. It doesn't really matter. Notre Dame's going to be good.
I think they're going to be good too. But I'm just saying the schedule is a bit of a heavier lift than it was last year.
No question.
At BC, at Pitt, at Stanford, the back half of the season.
But they barely broke a sweat last year. I mean, if you really look
Other
at
than
like
Northern Illinois.
Outside of week 2, the rest of the games
they
were
sweated that one.
I mean, they literally beat down everybody, including 2 of their first 3 playoff games. First 2 playoff, like that game against Georgia was not close in the second half. So I mean, like they smoked a lot of folks, and I think there's reason to believe they can do that again.
No, I would agree. All right, we'll continue this conversation. It's interesting on who are your locks for the college football playoff next season. Doesn't feel like there's a ton of them. Doesn't feel like there's a lot that you just look at and say, oh, yeah, I definitely feel like that team is going to be in. You also can't look at it and definitely say flu season is over. It isn't. Make your home healthier with Trane's Clean Effects Home Air Cleaner. Removes up to 99.9% of airborne particles, including those that cause virus. 100 times more effective than standard air filters. 8 times more effective than HEPA room filters. Find a dealer near you at Trane.com. Remember, it's hard to stop a train. Back with more college football playoff discussion next. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning, Friday, January 31st, 9:34 a.m. John, the conversation we were just having a few moments ago, do you feel the same? Are there teams we didn't talk about, we left out? Do you feel like there's more uncertainties coming this college football season than last?
I feel like there's more coming this year because, one, we've seen a lot of portal addition and subtraction across multiple teams and sports and leagues. But this year, they're, especially with proven, they didn't really feel like an elite team. And now going into it, it feels like that we know that there's not going to be one right now. So I feel like there are a lot more question marks kind of right now, at least before we've gotten any kind of anything of spring practice.
There's no doubt. And those rosters are going to change again before we get to the actual season. So I asked Greg, teams that you feel like you could right now say definitely are in the college football playoff.
Next year?
Who are those teams and how many do you think there are?
Yeah, I think the only ones that are locks for the playoffs next year. I think Penn State's a lock. I think Texas is a lock. Probably safe to look at Ohio State and assume they're probably a lock at this point. I mean, I know they have a lot of pieces to replace, but you look at their schedule. Like they'll get Indiana, Penn State comes to them. They'll get to go on the road to Michigan. I think Oregon comes to them. Oregon's got questions. Ohio State's got questions. I think they're probably close to a lock. I don't know if I'd be willing to go that far, but I think that might be like that's about it. I mean, there are a lot of question marks kind of across the board. Like your life depends on them making the playoff. Yeah, I'm not sure I can totally get on board with that. It's going to help a lot for Georgia to have all those tough games at home, but it's still a little bit of a up in the air battle. I mean, I don't know for sure they're going to be as good as they were this past season, and they weren't that great this past season.
It's odd to not sit here and say Alabama's in, Georgia is in, Michigan is in. I think Texas, we would probably sit back and say, yeah, if I had to pick teams to say they're definitively in the playoff, that would be one. But that's still, it's not a ton of experience at quarterback. I know what the nation feels like. I know what everybody thinks, but. You know, we don't know that that's going to happen. There's still a lot of question marks. I mean, you lose a lot in the middle of that defense. You lose a lot on that offensive line. You lose a lot at wide receiver. Now you got two really good edge rushers back. That helps. Helps a lot. You got talented receivers, talented backs, but you're losing a lot at tight end, and that was an important position for them last year.
Yeah.
So you could still come up with those questions, and maybe that's just something we got to get used to. Like you said, you go lean on age, veterans, experience, and you look at schedule. And Texas had that going for them last year on both sides.
Big time. I'm looking at like some of the others that are going to start the season with a lot of preseason expectations. Like I think Notre Dame's pretty safe bet to get in, but it's tougher. It's a tougher task. I think Bama's kind of a safe bet to be in the mix. I feel like Georgia's a safe bet to be in the mix, but they could replace a lot. On the defensive side, they have to replace a few pieces there. Like I think there's a lot that feel like they're safe plays, but at the same time, like, are you really willing to say life or death? They miss the playoffs, you die? Like, no, heck no. I'm not putting my life on any of these teams right now. Absolutely not. Like, you want a really fun practice? Tell me who's going to make it out of the G5. I'll wait.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. Like, okay.
I feel pretty good about Tulane. I think Malachi Hughes being back is going to be massive.
Tulane just lost their quarterback.
They did.
What about Memphis? Just lost a guy that's played a ton
second most productive player in school history, possibly.
Yeah.
At quarterback. So, Army, I feel pretty good about what you're going to have back. I don't know.
Culturally, you know what you're going to get.
I don't know if I can necessarily say, hey, it's going to be that far ahead, like close to where it was last year. But I mean, Bryson Daly's back, right?
Yes.
So that's a pretty good start. I'll lean there early. I'll say that. But I think South Florida could take a step. No, but we're talking playoffs. So that's a different conversation. That's a tough question. Because Mullen's going to be at UNLV. He's going to have Anthony Orji. That thing's going to be a little bit different than what it was. I still have confidence in his offense. I think Orji's a great fit, but what about the other pieces? You're going to have a Ricky White, a wide receiver?
Bryson Daly's not back, by the way.
I thought Bryson Daly was coming back.
Unless he changed his mind. 4 weeks ago, for the last 18 years, everything I've done has been at this game. All I've done is give back. Thankful of each coach for all this stuff. Above all, I'm grateful to the game bringing me to West Point, living out my dream, being part of the brotherhood for the last 5 years has been the most rewarding experience I could have ever imagined. Football, thank you. 13 out.
Wow. Did he have?
I think he's out of eligibility. Yeah, he was a senior.
So was Pavia.
I know. It's a good point. It's hard to keep track of this.
Is that an Army thing, I wonder?
Maybe. Not sure.
Like, would he have a year to go play somewhere else?
He got there in 21, appeared in one game, appeared in 5 games in 22.
Yeah, he's played 3 seasons.
Yes.
So maybe his Army eligibility is up. I don't know how that works. That's above my pay grade.
It's true. But I do know that when I look at the landscape, there are very few guarantees next year. Very few.
You Rich Rod's out of Jacksonville State. That thing's going to be different.
I mean, I'm talking G5, P5, you name it. Like
I'm just looking across, and it's hard to find.
Telling you, dude, there's not a lot. I mean, if you really want to go through it and feel good about some teams, like I feel really good about BYU. I feel really good about Clemson. I think they're borderline lock to get to the college football playoff.
I'll give them lock status right now.
Lock status is a hard thing to give.
I get that, but I mean, you've got Antonio Williams, proven receivers back. You've got Peter Woods, proven D line back, proven linebackers back. The offensive line's the offensive line. We don't need to spend a ton of time on it. They've done it with pretty good. They've done it with pretty bad. So it's the quarterback played out of his mind this year. Didn't get enough credit for it. He'll do it again next year. In that league, based on my level of confidence with some of the other players, I'll say Clemson's a lock right now.
All right.
Just to get in, not to win it, but to get in.
Yeah, I think it's safe.
Hey, and their commissioner might be giving them a pass on the championship game.
Well, I don't know if they can institute that year one. I don't think that can happen this quickly.
I think that we should take anything in college football that we don't think can happen and throw that out the window.
How do you feel about if they beat LSU week one?
Like John said, Pavia was a senior.
It's true. If they beat LSU week one, how good do you feel about it? Because you look at their road games at Louisville, at Boston College, at North Carolina, at Georgia Tech, at South Carolina. Like they got a handful of tricky ones, but they got to get that LSU game week one. If they're going to be lock status, they get LSU, I think it's lock status.
Yeah.
Then I don't know if they get that one.
Fair.
Good. Don't know if they will.
Totally could.
SEC though, is there any lock status besides Texas? Like lock, like bona fide lock, no doubt.
I don't think so.
I don't think there is. I don't know how you can do it.
And I'm higher on Georgia than you are. And I think Georgia's close.
No. Can't say lock status with Georgia. Too many question marks.
But you could say it's close to lock status.
That's great. Close only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades. You still go to Tennessee.
I don't mess with either one of those. So
to Tennessee, Bama, at Auburn, Texas.
Well, hold on. You just said Tennessee lost all their good players. So
they lost their two best players.
Doesn't matter.
They lost their two best players. By the way, who's going to push back on that?
He ain't here today.
Is Nico their best player? I'm sorry, I didn't.
You should have a better offensive line.
Tennessee?
No, Georgia.
Oh,
your tight end group's going to be great. Your running back's going to be fine. You add Zachariah Brandt's full speed, do some things in the screen game, whatever. Dylan Bell, maybe they let London Humphreys play this year.
They got the kid from A&M, Noah Thomas.
Noah Thomas coming in. Defensively, CJ Allen back.
You got Texas, Georgia Tech, Florida, Ole Miss, at Auburn, at Tennessee,
Georgia Tech won
and Bama.
7 games last year, and 3 of their best players left in the portal. Like I understand what it was last year, but like let's not just go in and say, "Oh, how are they going to manage that?"
Which 3? Singleton.
Yep.
So he counts as 3 guys now.
All 3, because he can run, catch, and throw.
Mm-hmm. Haynes King back, Jamal Haynes back, Rutherford back. Like they have enough.
They have enough to be dangerous.
They're never going to be good. They're always going to be dangerous. They're never going to be elite. Excuse me. They're always going to be dangerous. They are a dangerous program. Always. Every year. Every year. And we've seen Georgia Tech go to Athens before. Like it has happened. So I think their schedule's a beast.
It's not easy, but I have more confidence in them than a lot of these other teams we're talking about.
They're at Tennessee week 3.
And Tennessee's going to have it figured out? Without being able to hand it to Dylan Sampson?
I'm just saying. Road trip at Tennessee week 3.
Okay.
Just saying, it's not an easy trip.
It's not easy, but
you got at Mississippi State between Florida and Texas.
Did you just say at Mississippi State?
Took you long enough. Golly, you're on one today.
I'm wondering. I just don't how we can sit here and say that Georgia's not the next closest thing to a lock in the league. I don't.
I'm not saying they're not the next closest. I'm just saying they are not there yet as lock status.
Okay.
If you want to put them in the playoff because you're,
Here's-
Johnny
okay,
preseason top 25,
Think about it from this perspective, though. Who else have we put in the playoff?
nobody.
Okay, so if I put Georgia in the playoff, feels like that kind of makes sense because
No
there's
one's
nobody
making
else to
you-
put in.
No one's making you.
There's nobody else to put in.
No one's making you put them in.
But I'm saying by default, a little bit, I'll have Georgia in right now. Yeah.
But you don't have to do that. No one's forcing you.
But we got to put some people in at some point
Why?
because we prognosticate on this show. It's what we do. We pick things, including our Super Sofa Game of the Week, which comes next on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Jolly tweets into the show, didn't the kid at Army get commissioned in December? Second lieutenant, he was moving on to his Army career, I thought, which
Yes.
is really cool if that's the case. I don't recall seeing that, so I missed that. The Unhipster tweets in, it's obvious to say, but the teams with consistent good quarterback and receiver play win. Alabama did not have the quarterback part. Georgia didn't have the receiver part. Yeah, you lead the nation in drops, it's going to hurt.
No.
But Georgia did win. They got into the playoff. They won the SEC championship. Is that not winning anymore?
No.
Not for some.
It goes back to Ari Wasserman, friend of the show, wrote an article earlier this week at On3 talking about Penn State spending over $3 million a year on Jim Knowles.
Yes.
And he asked a really good question, Greg. He's like, is being good enough anymore?
No.
So you have to, it's be great or go home?
I think it's amazing.
What is this, a no fear shirt? Is that what we're doing in college football now?
Should be.
Greater
It's
trash.
amazing.
Jake Johnson shirt?
Yes.
Well,
What's amazing to me is that we've gotten to the point where the only thing that's good.
We're living the damn Under Armour commercial now.
Think
is what
about
we're
the
doing.
world. Think about the world in participation trophies. All right. We have participation trophies everywhere. Everywhere.
Nobody's giving me one
of
for showing up here
achievement.
every day. Hey, Nate!
Your participation trophy is your paycheck. So everyone gets participation trophy. Everybody.
That's earned.
So everyone gets participation trophy, and yet we don't acknowledge participation anymore. We don't acknowledge like quality. Like we don't acknowledge any of that stuff. Like, no. You're either the best or the worst.
When you laid out the way you did a little bit earlier on what teams did compared to what people say or thought they were, it's kind of scary.
Dude, you
Like,
think?
The SEC champion won 10 games. People were calling for Kalen DeBoer's job. They won 9. And by the way, beat the SEC champion.
People think Florida's the greatest thing since sliced bread. They were 7-5 in the regular season.
You just drooled all over Georgia Tech. They won 7.
It's all a matter of perspective. All a matter of perspective.
I think the problem that we've solved on the show today is none of us know anything.
I'm not claiming to. I think this year's going to be remarkably hard to pinpoint, but it is going to be pretty fun because I think it's wide open. I think the sport is wide open. Again, you look at teams and we're starting to figure out what the recipe is, like guys coming back, guys that could have gone pro that decided to come back, need another year of development. They come back with a unified process of chasing a championship. Those are the teams that have been rewarded with great runs the last couple of years. Yeah. Michigan 2 years ago, Ohio State this year, Georgia 4 years ago. Like we had a bunch that have kind of looked in that direction. So gone are the days of, hey, we just lost 7 guys in the draft, next man up mentality. We don't rebuild it at this place. We reload. Not anymore. You're rebuilding just like everybody else. Everybody is rebuilding now. Because if you look at the amount of talent that is stockpiled on these rosters traditionally versus what's reality now, it doesn't exist anymore.
Okay.
A lot fewer 5 stars on all these rosters, a lot fewer 4 stars on all these rosters. Like everyone gets 4 stars now. You want to talk about participation trophy? You get recruited by the G5, you get 2 stars. You get recruited by the P5, you get 4 stars. That's the way it rolls. And it's about who's recruiting you, not about how good you are. Don't acknowledge it.
All right, let's get to our TD's Fine Furniture Super Sofa game of the weekend. We got a couple of big college basketball games this weekend. Auburn's at Ole Miss. That's 1 at 23. Florida's at Tennessee. That's 5 at 8. Samford at Citadel. Charlotte at UAB. Saturday at noon and 1. Georgia at Alabama, 3 o'clock on ESPN. Auburn at Ole Miss is 1 o'clock on ESPN. Central Arkansas at UNA. Alabama State's at Bethune. Alabama A&M's at Florida A&M. I am going to go with NFL Network, 1:30 p.m. Saturday for the Senior Bowl. Jalen Milroe at quarterback, amongst others, trying to make their way into the NFL. I know the game is a little bit of a letdown sometimes compared to practice, but it's still a live tackle football game. Asterisk All-Star. But I'll take it as my TD's Fine Furniture Super Sofa game of the weekend, Greg.
Well, that's good. Enjoy that one.
Give us your basketball. Yay.
I will go to basketball, and it will be 11 o'clock local on ESPN. Number 5, Florida. 18-2 overall, 5-2 in the SEC, traveling to Rocky Top, Tennessee, 8th-ranked Volunteers. I love this matchup. You got a team in Florida is really fun to watch. You got a team in Tennessee that just makes it super physical, grinded out type of game. That game will be 11 o'clock on ESPN from Food City Center.
I'll take them Gators.
In Knoxville, Tennessee.
My game is actually going to be at noon, kind of opposite that on the SEC Network. Give me Missouri and Mississippi State in basketball. Very quietly. Yeah. Missouri's 4th in the league right now. That's a top 25 matchup. Mississippi State, had a little rough run of it kind of lately. But
is it every game in the SEC a top 25 matchup, basically?
Well, not for Alabama. I mean, they're playing Georgia.
It was at one point.
Well, maybe, yeah. But no, give me Missouri, Mississippi State as my TD's Fine Furniture Super Sofa game of the weekend. By the way, TD's New Year clearance event is happening now. It's almost up. Save up to 50% on name brand furniture for the entire house, bedroom, living room, dining room, even discounts in the Flex Deal store. Plus, pay no interest until 2026 at TD's Fine Furniture in Summerton.
All right, quickly, bad box score of the day. The Monroe University Bronx Express.
Winners. Oh, we had them.
They just knocked out LaGuardia Community College, the Red Hawks, 67-34 last night, 31-17 at the half. Monroe goes 26 of 60 from the floor, just 1 of 13 from 3. But they were 14 of 16 from the free throw line. Dimitri Alston, 8 of 10 from the floor, 10 for 10 from the free throw line, had 26 points. LaGuardia, they did not land many three-pointers in the game.
Oh, my. Okay.
They were 1 for 8 from 3. And struggled to get off the runway from the floor. 11 of 40 from the floor. 11 of 40 from the floor.
From the floor.
By the way, on those 29 misses, 8 offensive rebounds.
Of course. Yeah. Just pathetic.
Not great. We're back Monday with Paul Feinbaum, Richard Hendricks, and Andy Kennedy right here on Jocks 94.5. 3-man front is next from